Aita my mom got dumped because I didn't want her new boyfriend sleeping in our house overnight. Not the a-hole. So my 24F mom is living with me since she got divorced a decade ago and has been struggling to manage things on her own since then. She lost her job in the summer and originally was looking a bunch for jobs but now isn't really doing that. But she met someone working for my apartment recently and they were talking a little bit for a few months. Now this talking was literally just seeing each other outside and chatting for a minute before going about their way. Well, she had him over for the first time on Christmas Eve 2024. We were fine with that but requested he please not stay overnight since he's a stranger to us. She refused to kick him out and he stayed in our apartment the whole night. After that I tried to discuss with her some boundaries which I thought were reasonable. The only boundary I had was for him not to stay overnight until me and my sister got to know him better. She was mad at us for that and frequently argued with us and tried to plead with us but respected it. But one night it was weird because she went to bed at 10 p.m. then at 11 comes to get us saying he texted her wanting to come over and would we let him. We gently stated our boundary again and she said that she'd already told him he could stay overnight. That hurt me a little but she ended up telling him to go back home. She was pissed though since he lives a few hours away and only comes to the apartment to work. But he could come over a couple nights a week and they'd sleep together then he'd leave before it got too late. And some of why me and my sister requested this boundary is because our dad was notorious for having random people over when we'd come for visitation as teenagers and not warning us beforehand. And it's also weird because not once have they gone on a traditional date. They never go place together and my mom has no interest in it. It's only sex in her room a couple nights a week. And she's also been drinking a lot more since meeting him which concerns me because she's already jobless. Final part of the story is that she says he just broke up with her because me and my sister wouldn't let him stay overnight. I tried to tell my mom we didn't mean never and just wanted to get to know him before a stranger sleeps in our apartment. I also think it's weird that he would rather not be with her than wait a little bit to sleep with her overnight. And keep in mind that they were seeing each other multiple times per week, just not overnight. My mom is pissed at me and begging me to let him stay overnight so she can get him back and giving me the whole spiel about how she has always taken care of us and this is how we repay her. Saying don't you care about my mental health and that he's the only thing that makes her happy. This has been weighing on me for weeks so I really need to know. AITA for upholding my boundary. ETA, adding a new section for where the guy lives to make it more clear since I shouldn't have buried it in long paragraphs. I don't want to reveal too much but he lives 3 hours away and his job involved traveling so he's down where we are on weekdays and doesn't have a permanent place up here. ETA again, sorry guys I typed this all up in an emotional rush and probably didn't explain myself the best. Yeah, of course we lived with my mom when I was 14 until college when I started paying most of the rent cause my mom was struggling. But me and my sister moved for a work opportunity a few years ago and our mom came with us since she didn't have much at our old place and couldn't pay rent alone so that's why we live together now. When the divorce happened we lost the house and have been living in apartments and people's basements since. Stories number 2. AITA for telling my neglectful father's wife I don't care if her unborn kid's my father's I don't owe her a thing. My father and his wife have a 25-year on and off relationship and marriage. My father had me, 19M, with someone else and his wife had a daughter, 16-ish now, with someone else. At one time the four of us lived together for about 4 years. I was neglected badly in that time and was eventually removed by CPS and placed with my aunts. They helped me get back on track after a really shitty time. My mother was an addict and wasn't any better and the only reason I lived with my father is because she OD'd and died. The wife's daughter wasn't really treated much better but she got a little more and she wasn't removed like I was. I had nothing more to do with them. But then a few weeks ago his wife DM'd me on Facebook. My father's in jail and she claims she's expecting his baby and she needs me to help. She wanted me to move in and help pay bills and help with the baby and make sure she has support for her delivery. I ignored her and blocked the account but then another account which is clearly also hers DM'd me and told me I was going to have a sibling and I should do something to make sure the baby's okay. I told her I didn't believe for 1 second the baby is his but even if the kid is, I don't owe her a thing and that I wasn't going to reply again. I blocked that account and I didn't respond when more messages came from different accounts. But she's basically telling me I should care if the baby is his and I should be a better man than him. To me this kid whether they're his or not is nothing to do with me and I'm not the father so I feel like I have zero responsibility. But maybe I am TA for feeling that way and saying what I did. Aita. Stories number 3. My parents are lying to me. I know I'm adopted. I found out last night from a 23andMe test that I'm most likely adopted or my biological dad isn't my dad at the very least, not enough info on mom's side to be 100% sure. I honestly always had my suspicions, like the lack of pregnancy photos with my mom, who is obsessed with taking photos of everything, and a birth certificate with a different name on it that my brother found of his. When I found out she went on a backpacking trip to Europe when she was supposedly 7 months pregnant with my brother and I was 1 year old and the pictures of her looked like she wasn't pregnant, this is what caused me to get a test. I got one for my brother but he backed out at the last minute for certain reasons I won't get into. He says he is over them though, and is going to get one now. I got the results of the test late last night, and I have a great-grandfather on my dad's side who isn't supposed to be my great-grandfather or supposed to be alive, but is actually alive and well. I also have an aunt, a few half-aunts and half-cousins, and a couple cousins I never knew existed and I don't recognize any of the names. My dad's family was also all boys so none of this makes sense. I asked my parents to take a DNA test and they refused, so I don't know what to do. I honestly don't know what to feel. So far I guess I feel a lot of shock and a good bit of anger. I just want to say that I realize now that my dad could have different bio parents and not realize it. But that is the only explanation based off the genetics in the 23andMe profile. I am not giving out all the info on why adoption seems likely because it's a lot of details but both my brother and boyfriend and I heavily suspect it. I am happy for the support I was given, no matter how small it was, in the comments. Thank you, it helped me realize that there are still a few alternative options. I just wanted to edit to say that part of my brother's genetic results came back. He is 25% Italian. We have no Italian in our family and I am 0% Italian. But that's not even the most damning part. Our maternal haplops are different. I looked it up, and this means that we have different moms. I am going to take an ancestry test to try to find out more about my biological family's history. Thanks to everyone who was kind and helpful. To everyone who says it's NBD, that's what I thought too until it actually happened to me and now it has actually affected me a lot. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. What percent does it say you share with your mom's DNA? Should be right around 50%. Reply, the parents that raised me aren't on there. It's other relatives, like my great-grandfather that isn't supposed to be alive but actually is. And none of the last names match mine. I was lucky enough to get into contact with my half-cousin, who funnily enough is actually an egg donor and that's why she's on there, and she has the whole family tree mapped out going back to the 1800s and there's no relation to any of the relatives I know or my last name. And she has like 30 last names on her family tree if you go just backwards. OOP clarifies on if she has tested her parents already and how she came to the conclusion on being adopted without getting any answers. OOP yeah I realize that now. I was super emotional and confused when I wrote that, hence why I went to the Off My Chest subreddit looking for advice. I didn't realize I would get such bad responses when I really just wanted advice and reassurance on where to go from here. I also posted in the adoption subreddit and got much better responses, where they cleared a lot of things up for me. Now I definitively see what all the scenarios could be, and I think I have a couple ideas of how to go forward. Basically, there are 3 options. My dad is not my bio dad. My mom and dad are not my bio parents. Because of my family tree, my dad could be the one that has a dad that is not his bio dad. So basically, I am going to proceed more carefully as I wouldn't want to upset my dad by revealing a secret to him he might not want to know. My brother is also getting a test to see if we are related. Ick, what do you think of that as an idea? Found out I'm adopted at 30. I found out, at 30, through 23andMe, that I was adopted. I confronted my parents and they admitted, finally, that both my brother and I are actually adopted. They told me my birth story and apparently both my brother and I were born to teen moms. My mom was connected to me and it was an open adoption and she kept in contact for a couple years, but my brother's mom not so much. After my parents' disclosure of my bio mom's name, I told my second cousin and she knew who my bio mom was. The names and situation ended up completely matching up. I guess my adoption was not a secret at all in their family. My cousin said she would reach out to her to see if she wanted to talk to me at all. But yeah, I'm nervous. I know there is a good chance she won't want to talk and I will just have to get to know my extended family and accept what it is. But I'm secretly hoping so much that she wants to talk to me. Has anyone been through this before? How did it work out for you? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Finding out you're adopted at 30 is like discovering you're the surprise guest star in your own life. Just hope the script isn't a horror movie. Reply, yeah, to be honest this isn't the worst thing my parents have done so I'm not even that surprised. LMAO. If you don't laugh you will cry. I just feel, on top of everything, fucking embarrassed that my entire family knew and lied to me my entire life. Everyone knew but my brother and I. That is the part that makes me the most angry. Like, my parents said, we just didn't tell you because nothing was different Katie. Like, it just sounds like a lame excuse to me, to lie to me for my entire life about something so important. And of course, they are, and always will be, my parents. But I have other family too and an entire different genetic history that I fucking deserve to know about. For instance, I didn't get the NIPT genetic test done while I was pregnant with my daughter because there were absolutely no genetic issues whatsoever in my family. Well, that's not true at all. I have no idea. And that's just one example. I'm just trying not to think about that part of it because it makes me so upset. Trying to focus on the fact that I now know my birth mom's story. When my parents told me, it was like I could feel what my bio mom was feeling and I started crying. And I don't usually cry. It was the strangest thing. But it was like I knew before I was actually told what her feelings were about me and the situation. I know that sounds crazy, but it is what I felt. I am focusing on the fact that my bio grandmother painted me and my mom a beautiful painting of a girl with red hair right before she died, and my adoptive mom just showed me today. I will treasure that painting forever no matter what happens from all this. So yeah, all in all, I am trying to stay positive but it is hard not to be anxious and angry as well. OOP's thoughts on what age should she had found out about her adoption. Reply, as soon as the child can comprehend words. I would have wanted to know from the start. This is also what all the research on the matter clearly shows. Children are able to integrate the idea of adoption into their personality much more easily than adults who have already developed a completely different identity. Obviously, it is okay to sugarcoat things for children. Like, please don't tell 2-year-old me that my birth father didn't even want to see me after I was born and that he sold the engraved watch with my name on it that was given to him by my adoptive parents, and yes, that apparently did happen, lol. But big lies about where a child comes from, and getting the entire family to lie to them for their entire life. No, that is not good. I feel like everyone was in on an inside joke that was my life, but me. And also, I hate to think of what this is going to do to my brother eventually, who is also adopted. He doesn't know yet. My brother is much different and more sensitive, and he has said multiple times that if he finds out he is adopted, he will completely self-destruct and never talk to my parents again. This all could have been avoided had my parents just told us casually when we were younger. Also, I decided to pass on this prenatal genetic testing for my daughter because I thought I knew my family history. That could have had lasting consequences for both me and my daughter because we don't know our genetic background at all. These are just a couple examples of the very real consequences of doing this. This all has also been a lot to process as an adult and has kind of changed my life. I didn't think it would to the extent it did. But when reality hits, it's honestly completely different than you would ever imagine it to be, I promise you. My adoptive parents will forever just be my real parents to me. No matter what happens with my bio mom. They wanted me and my brother, but couldn't have bio children. Yes, they lied, and this isn't the first time they have lied about something big just to avoid talking about a difficult topic. But they are still my parents. I know that they both love me, and I know my dad especially loves me unconditionally. I just have this knowing deep down that I was better off with my adoptive, real, parents, despite everything I did go through in my family, and despite me being upset with them over this whole thing. TLDR, you should tell them immediately. Me finding out at 30 has had lasting consequences, it has not been very fun. Despite this, my adoptive parents are my real parents and I will always see them that way. Has OOP reached out to her birth mother? If so, what were her responses? Reply, so I did get the number from my cousin, and messaged her myself. It was kind of a long message though, where I told her my name and birthday, that I just found out I was adopted via 23andMe, and had been talking to had found out via my cousin that was on 23andMe already. I said I would love to talk to learn more about her and for her to learn more about me, but I also know she has her own family now and that she might not be ready to or want to talk to me for many different reasons and totally understand that. I also told her I've enjoyed getting to know about myself already through 23andMe my cousin, and told her I saw a picture that her mom made for me for the first time that I really loved and appreciated. Was that way too much? I sent this before everyone gave me the advice to keep it very short and sweet. It's all just been so emotional for me to be honest. Yes, she just messaged me back, love. She basically said that she is shocked and needs to process this, understandable, and that she is at work right now and would talk to me tonight. So hopefully we will get to connect. From what I hear from other family, she is a kind person, so hopefully it goes well. Fingers crossed. Update, I am adopted. I mostly found out through 23andMe. I first did the test on myself 2 months ago, and it came back with a completely different family line. I was so freaked out, because I had honestly been suspicious from the start, so I confronted my parents. Unfortunately, they continued to lie to me. Another red flag is my parents had been completely against me getting the test even to begin with. To settle the matter, I took advice from off my chest, see my last post, and my brother did the test right after my results came back. His results came in yesterday, and I saw that we had a different maternal haplop. This means we are not related by mother. His family tree also did not match mine or my parents. My parents were upset when they had found out my brother got the test and wanted me to shut the test down, but I did not want to do that until I at least saw his results first, and I did in fact make sure I was first to see them before he did. When I saw the shocking results, I then paused the account, essentially, until I at least could figure this out with my parents. I confronted my parents, again, and they finally told the truth. Long story short, they were infertile and they adopted me and my brother from teen moms after a failed round of IVF. I won't get into the details, but the story of both me and my brother's adoption honestly explains so much of my life, it's crazy. I found my birth mom immediately because I had already been talking to my cousin and I said my bio mom's name and she recognized it immediately. I sent her a message, and it turns out I have so many other half-siblings, just on my mom's side. I have been talking to my half-sister who is pretty close in age to me as well. They all said they were waiting for this moment their entire life and said so many sweet things and I literally cried throughout the day, it was so emotional. So I am going to keep talking to them and see where things go. Hopefully we can become close eventually. Despite all this, and all the lies and bullshit where my entire family knew about this and lied my entire childhood and adult life, and despite the fact that I'm not happy with my parents, they are still my parents. I feel awkward on the etiquette of names for my bio mom, and I do hope I can become close with her, but my mom is always going to be my adoptive mom. Weirdly enough, this almost affirms that they really, truly, wanted me in a weird way. I know deep down my mom is worried she would be replaced, or have competition for the role of mom, and that's part of the reason they didn't tell me. But that's definitely not true. It would be lovely to connect with my family of origin and have them be part of my close family though, and I am excited about the possibilities but also trying to keep my expectations low. I didn't have finding out I'm truly adopted at 30 years old and meeting my birth family on my 2025 bingo card, but I'm here for it and it's actually become more and more positive of an experience. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, what an emotional and transformative journey, thank you for sharing. The way you've handled uncovering such a life-changing truth is admirable, balancing compassion for your adoptive parents with excitement for connecting with your biological family. It's heartwarming that your birth family is welcoming you so warmly, and your approach to navigating these new relationships with realistic expectations is so wise. As for the relationship with your adoptive parents, your understanding of their fears and motivations speaks volumes about your character and love for them. It sounds like, despite their missteps in handling this, their love for you is clear. Wishing you all the best as you continue to build these connections and process this new chapter. You're turning a complex situation into something truly meaningful. Reply, thank you, I really appreciate your comment. It's been quite the journey, but I feel like my daughter, who is little, is going to potentially have so much more love in her life and I'm excited for where this journey takes me. At the very least, I can tell her all about where she comes from and who her biological grandmother is. It turns out my bio grandma even made me a painting and gave it to my parents before I was born and it is very beautiful. She died shortly after I was born, so that is something I will now treasure forever. Is OOP's brother okay with the news received? Reply, we have not told him yet. I guess he forgot the password anyways, but never asked me to help him get access to the account. I think he subconsciously doesn't really want to know. So as long as he doesn't really want to know, my parents and I have decided to let sleeping dogs lie. The test is there when he wants it, and then when he asks for the info we will tell him. There are other reasons for that as well. Personal family issues. And no, I don't know if it's the right answer to do that, but I honestly believe it's the best one with everything going on. It just becomes so much more difficult to tell a person news like this the older they become, doesn't it? That is why everyone tells parents to tell their children right from the get-go. Did OOP feel differently from her family growing up? Reply, yes. Interestingly enough, I felt psychologically different and my brother, who is also adopted, didn't really quite look like us. My mom said that I was loved by my bio mom and her family, but my brother wasn't, so I guess she decided she was my brother's true mom, but not really mine. And she enmeshed with him completely. He got everything he wanted, he never had challenges he had to face as a kid in order to grow up like the rest of us. Like, as a small, tinier example, he would cry on my birthday because he didn't get birthday presents, so he started getting birthday presents on my birthday until I was like 16 years old. He is 1 year younger than me. This unequal treatment and sometimes straight-up abuse from my mom had really had disastrous consequences for me, obviously, but I didn't realize the level of consequences this had on my brother until we got older. He has never lived away from home, never paid a bill in his life, and has no motivation to move his life forward in any way whatsoever. He's stuck, and I honestly feel my mom's enmeshment in his life is the biggest reason for this. I definitely felt like the red-headed stepchild in the family, mostly for this reason. Even though I have a good bit of trauma from my childhood, it did ultimately make me a stronger and more loving person. And now I at least know the reason my mom is the way she is with my brother. So although it still hurts me, I try to remind myself that I got the better end of things in the end because I am mostly self-sufficient. Also because I care about other people than just myself, because I know what it feels like to be in that dark kind of place in life where you feel like no one loves you, even if that's not completely true. I do feel like I am finally starting to heal now, and maybe my adoptive mom will too. Stories number 4. My uncle is acting strangely with my sister. To be blunt, I noticed that my uncle, 49M, has been paying a lot of attention to my sister, 14F. It's not just that he gives her more gifts or just prefers her, but whenever we show up to his house for a family event or just something similar, he always talks about how she looks and is always doing stuff like patting her lower back, rubbing her shoulders, or he'll grab her waist without warning. His gifts for her are also more expensive. It was fine at first, he was at my sister's birth and was one of the first to hold her, so she's always been his favorite to an extent and he's always spoiled her, but it's like I blinked and he's suddenly acting like this. I don't know exactly when he started acting differently with her, but I noticed it a week ago and we haven't been to his house since then. I've tried talking to my grandma about it, but she just brushes it off and my parents are always too busy. I'm also scared of telling our other extended family because of the fact my grandma brushed me off the first time. What should I do? Cause I don't want to just ignore it, but I'm also scared of telling anyone else in case I'm overreacting. Edit. 1 hour later. Edit. This isn't really an update, but for the comments who asked, I haven't talked to my sister about it yet, but I'm planning to do so later. We're at our grandma's house right now, and considering our grandma brushed off what I said, I don't want to cause too much of a fuss if she ends up hearing me bring it up again. I'm also planning to talk to our parents as soon as we get home. All your comments drilling it into my head that I had to tell them helped. Thank you for helping me not be a coward and for your guys' support in general. Sum of comments. Commenter, did you tell your parents? Reply, I've tried, but they both work and are frequently out of the house, so I haven't been able to really talk to them about it. Commenter, do you literally never see them? It only takes 30 seconds to tell them. Reply, they work in the early morning up until nighttime. I'm usually at school or on the weekends, at our grandma's house. It's why I told our grandma first, because I thought she would be able to tell my parents since they'd probably listen to her better than me. Commenter, are your parents kind people? Do they have narcissistic tendencies? I'm asking because I grew up with a mother that was not all there and definitely had narcissistic traits, perhaps leans towards schizoid, and a father that often tried to avoid all people and simply work and be alone a lot of the time. Reply, I don't really understand what you mean, but my parents do work a lot and they aren't abusive to me or my siblings. I just think they're overworked and don't have the time to worry about us. Commenter, just curious, how old are you OP? I'd rather say something and be wrong than not say anything and be right. Reply, I'm 16 and I agree. I'm just scared that I might be making a big deal out of nothing because of what I've seen accusations like this do to people. Update post 1. Hi, I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly, but I've seen people do updates this way before, so I'll just do it this way. First things first, thank you everyone for your comments and giving me advice. Second, I talked to my sister as soon as we got home from our grandma's and turns out, she's aware that it's weird but actually liked it at first. She said that our uncle is nicer to her than our parents and that the gifts are nice. She said that she only started feeling uncomfortable when he began to touch her, specific actions mentioned in my previous post, but that, because she's been accepting all his gifts for her, she thought it might be rude to start saying no now. I asked her when it started and she revealed he started touching her in that way when she turned 12. She said that he only did it when they were in her room. Since we visit so often, our uncle and aunt have set guest rooms for me and my siblings, and that was the reason why she has no locks on her door specifically. She also said that she was scared of telling anyone that she was weirded out by his behavior because both our grandma and aunt brushed it off when she was 12, saying that she's always been his favorite and that she was probably just misreading everything he was doing because she's a teenager now. I showed her your comments. She's never heard of the word grooming before, so she was pretty shocked and a little angry, saying that our uncle would never do something like that, but I managed to convince her to tell our parents about our uncle together, even if it was just to ask them to stop him from touching her. I've also sent texts to our parents about it, detailing that my sister is uncomfortable with how our uncle behaves with her, but our parents have yet to respond to any of the texts I've sent about our uncle and have just texted that, we'll talk about it when we get home. They're both working late today and won't be home by nighttime probably. Comment. My sister said that she talked to our aunt about it but she brushed it off like our grandma did, and I'm not sure if I should bring it up to her again, for the video recording. I don't want to let my sister be in a situation where she has to be touched again on purpose in order for us to get something, but I also don't want to just say anything without having proof. I'm still figuring it out, but thank you for the advice. Update post 2. I'm sorry if this isn't allowed moderators, but I'm just really confused but also really angry right now and don't know how to fix that. Our parents got home an hour ago and me and sister talked with them. In short, my mom was pissed and my dad was surprised, but he also revealed something. Turns out that he knew our uncle, his brother for context, had been acting weirdly with my sister but didn't do anything because he didn't think he'd ever try anything with his kids, and that he thought he had changed. He said that our uncle had done something with one of my cousins a few years before my sister was born. My grandma was the one who caught him and got him into therapy. Our dad said that our grandma made our uncle promise not to do it again in order for them not to report him. Our aunt, this specific uncle's wife, is also aware of this, but, according to our dad, she said that our cousin had tempted him with how she dressed around the house. Our dad said that's why that specific cousin doesn't talk with the rest of the family. My mom apparently didn't know this and they argued. She threatened divorce and a restraining order against his entire family if our dad doesn't only tell our uncle to back off but also report him to the police. Our dad doesn't want to, and last I heard, he's calling our grandma. Sorry that this is a complete mess. I don't know what else to do and I'm stressed out of my mind. My sister looks okay right now though, so that's all that matters to me at the moment. It feels like my life is falling apart because of our uncle, and at this point, I'm starting to feel like beating him up is the only way to fix everything. I know it's not, and that's irrational, but I'm just so angry. I also mentioned telling the police or counselors at school like you guys said, but she doesn't want to. She says she's embarrassed about it and she said that they just blame her cause she let it go for 2 years, even though I told her that she didn't do anything wrong and was just scared. She wouldn't budge. Some of comments. Commenter, do you have contact info for that estranged cousin? It might be helpful for your sister to speak to them about it. Reply, I met that cousin only once and I was really young back then. I haven't heard anything about her since aside from the info that our dad shared. I'm thinking of trying to contact her, but I don't know how to do that. I replies to a longer comment. Reply, thank you, this calmed me down a little cause I've been tense since talking with our parents. I'm sorry if I sounded really mad in my post. I don't know if anyone other than my dad, aunt and grandma know that our uncle is like that, but I don't want to risk telling any of them if they do. Update post 3. Sorry, I haven't updated for a bit. A lot has been going on and I've been a little out of my mind trying to remember everything so I could put it down here. In short, my mom and dad are divorcing and my mom brought me and my other siblings, including my sister, back to her parents' house for the time being until it goes through. My mom's parents are really old but they're really fun, so my sister and other younger siblings like being here even though everything's a big mess right now. Nothing too big has happened, but I want you guys to know that my mom signed my sister up for therapy. I told our mom about the fact my sister doesn't want to tell the police or anything and our mom is planning on telling the police herself. Our mom is also trying to go through on the restraining order, but it's taking a while, so she's trying for a temporary one for now until she can file out a permanent one. Our mom and dad both worked full-time, but now that my mom is taking care of 5 kids by herself while working, she's been really stressed out and tired. Her parents help, but like I said, they're super old and can't really do much on their own. No information on our cousin at this point since our mom is super swamped. Sorry this isn't a good update. I don't know what's been going on with our dad and his side of the family, but our mom told us not to worry and that she'll handle it. Thank you again for everyone who took the time to read my posts and give me advice. I think I'd be pretty helpless without it, so thank you. This is just more of a life right now kind of update than anything too big. I'm not too sure what to write now since our mom is trying to handle everything on her own, so I'll edit this post if anything comes up. Stories number 5. Aita for being greedy and rude while planning my wedding. Not the a-hole. I, 28F, and my fiancé, 36M, are planning our wedding, and last night he accused me of being greedy and rude. Background: I come from a wealthy family and have worked hard to manage finances responsibly. My father has given each daughter $120,000 for their wedding. My sisters used all of it for their weddings, but I asked to use $70,000 for the wedding and $10,000 for a honeymoon, saving $40,000 to help with future children's expenses. My dad agreed to this plan, but only if I could make the wedding work with that budget. I didn't make this decision lightly. When I first got engaged 5 months ago, I considered using the full amount for a European wedding, but I realized I didn't want to prioritize that. A wedding is one day, and securing our future financial stability seemed more important. My fiancé has been patient but has accused me of delaying the wedding due to indecisiveness, though I'm just overwhelmed by spending so much on one day and managing everything else. Last night, I asked him to help review venues for a tour we're doing Monday. He rushed through options, and I started to cry from stress. I also wanted to vet the venue's prices before booking, but this frustrated him. He said I was rude for not wanting to use all the money for a wedding he would love, claiming that going over budget was fine because this was our most important day. He has always dreamed of a grand wedding with lots of guests. He criticized the venue I liked, an old library that only seats 180 and fits our budget. He said I was being rude by limiting my guest list to 60 people so he could invite 120 of his family. He also accused me of being greedy for wanting to save the leftover money and said I looked like I was hoarding it. He argued that since we are financially well off, I shouldn't worry about saving for future children. He also mentioned that our wedding planner had supposedly said I was being greedy, though he later admitted to making that up to show me how rude I was being. I thought I was being fiscally responsible by saving the extra money, but now I'm questioning if I've made the right decision. Aita. Stories number 6. AITJ for telling my friend that he should apologize to his girlfriend who clearly cares about his kid. My friend who we'll call Tom, 27M, has a son we'll call Jack, 5M. Jack's mom is completely out of the picture. She left a note when Tom was asleep and Jack was only a few months old saying she couldn't handle being a mom and had decided to move to another country. Understandably, this hit Tom hard as they had been together for almost 4 years before this, and he thought she was ecstatic to start parenthood with him. After extensive therapy, Tom seemed to be doing well and his son has grown up to be a really smart and sweet kid. For the last year and a half-ish, Tom has been dating Anna, 26F. She is an extremely sweet girl and seems to care deeply about both Tom and Jack. Their relationship seemed to be going well until Tom called me a few days ago absolutely livid. Apparently at some point during the night, Jack had a nightmare and crawled into bed with Anna and Tom. When Tom woke up, he found Anna awake on her phone holding a sleeping Jack by her side. When he told me this I said, "Ah, that's so sweet," and he lost it. He started accusing me of choosing Anna over him and said that she had no right to hold his kid without asking. I quickly apologized and said I didn't mean to seem like I was choosing sides, but that I didn't see the problem as it seems like Anna just allowed Jack to continue laying with her. I asked Tom if he wanted her to have pushed him off, and he paused before saying, "I don't know, maybe. I just feel like she thinks she's his mom." I told him that I really thought he should apologize because it was obvious that she cared about his son and wasn't doing anything inappropriate. I also mentioned he should probably talk about this to his therapist. He was silent, then called me a jerk and hung up. AITJ, I'm genuinely concerned for him and his mental health right now. Update. Late last night, I got a text from Anna asking if we could meet for breakfast. I accepted, and we did a fun little girl's morning. She gave me her side, and it was essentially exactly what Tom had said, so at least he didn't cover up anything. She expressed her hurt and said she was mostly confused as Tom has never acted like this before. We talked for a while before I had to go to class. I'm still in college, and we decided that Anna would approach Tom about this later this evening. I would give both of them space to work it out, and could address my own falling out with Tom later. She said that while she had still been sleeping in the same bed as him, they're both just ignoring each other for the most part. Well, turns out that Tom had been thinking about this all day, because when Anna got back he was waiting for her in tears. He apologized profusely and explained that he wasn't sure why it caused him such distress to see her holding his son. Anna hugged him and told him that she really thought he should make therapy a more frequent thing, and he agreed. They even talked about family therapy for all of them, so that's a positive. Tom also reached out to me and asked if we could get coffee so he could formally apologize at some point this week. I accepted, and we're working on a time. Hopefully this answers most questions, but let me know if there is more. Comments. I don't think you said anything wrong and ultimately the kid felt safe with her, so that's what's most important. He should definitely talk to the therapist though, because it's very likely the kid will start to see Anna as a mom. Reply, that's what I'm confused about. Isn't a good thing his kid trusts his girlfriend who may become his wife? Maybe deep down still, he doesn't want his son getting too attached in case he wakes up to another note, and then this time has to explain to the child, well, she's gone buddy. He's so used to be the only parent also. It's hard when your kid goes to the other person versus you when it was always you. It feels like rejection when it's not, and we know it's just them being a kid, but he's got a few things more he needs to work out in himself. Your mate needs a bit more therapy perhaps regarding how he's going to handle his son having a relationship with his because he will get left over and over if he pushes every woman away from his son like this. She's already sleeping in the same home as the child. She's already considered a safe person to be in that space, so it's not that she's a danger etc. to the child. He's so used to be the one and only parent, the everything and all. It's hard when you're not, that I know from experience and still get stung with occasionally, even today. I was asked when my partner would be home cause she wants to build Lego with him, but not me cause she just doesn't want to. It's not that he doesn't trust her. It's not that he doesn't love her. It's not that he doesn't want his son to have that loving relationship too. He just doesn't know how to do it. NTJ, and your comment about talking this over with his therapist really hit a nerve. I hope he takes your advice and have that conversation and apologize to his girlfriend. He might have some underlying abandonment issue with how the baby mama abruptly and unexpectedly left them. Reply, that's what it felt like, and I understand that maybe I crossed a line with that, but I do genuinely think he needs professional help. What other mom things does he require of her? Does she cook for them, clean after them, help babysit, take him or pick him up from preschool? Seems your friend is jealous of his GF having any type of love from the child. That is definitely a him issue. Anna deserves better. You did right by telling your friend he's an idiot. Nta. Reply, they both do household chores like cleaning and cooking, but as far as I know, she's only watched Jack a handful of times as Tom works from home. Stories number 7. Aita for getting pissed at my ex's new wife for calling me. So I was in a relationship for 2 years. My ex-boyfriend broke up with me and I found out through social media that he married another woman 6 months after we broke up, and 2 months after we went completely no contact. I felt extremely hurt at the speed and I felt betrayed because he most likely cheated during our relationship, but I am starting to move on. It's been 2 months since he got married and I have blocked him everywhere. I got a call from a random local number today and decided to pick up because I am waiting on some jobs I applied to call me back. The woman on the line introduced herself as my ex's wife. I asked her why she was calling me. She then was like, I saw some of your messages on his phone and I would just like to tell you that he is very happily married now, so please do not contact him. I got angry and told her the last time we spoke was months ago. I don't give a shit about him and he's your problem now. Leave me alone and do not ever call me again, and hung up on her. I can't lie, I was pissed. How is she gonna act like I'm some desperate wannabe side chick when I was the one who was betrayed? Aita. Stories number 8. My 28F, boyfriend, 27M, says I'm ungrateful for wanting to move out of our shared living situation after 6 years together. Been dating my boyfriend for 6 years, and we've been living together for the past 4 years, but we share the space with his brother, 30M, and his brother's girlfriend, 29F. We split rent 4 ways, and while it made sense financially in the beginning, I feel like we've outgrown this setup. We're not struggling financially. We make pretty equivalent salaries, with a combined income over $140,000, and we don't live in a super expensive city like NYC or LA. To me, there's no real reason we need roommates at this stage. I just want my own space and to feel comfortable in my own home. To him, splitting rent means saving ahead for bigger things in the future for us. The thing is, the shared space feels more like the brother's home than just a roommate situation. Him and his brother regularly have their friends over and family over. Meanwhile, I've only had visitors, my mom, maybe once or twice in the entire 4 years. I don't necessarily mind visitors being around, but it just reinforces the fact that this doesn't feel like my home. He says I am welcome to have friends or family over more often, but it's not comfortable for me. When I bring this up, my boyfriend says I'm being ungrateful and that moving out on our own would be financially dumb in the long run. He insists that when he tells other people about our living situation, they think it's cool and great and that I should appreciate it more rather than feeling embarrassed or unhappy. He says if I feel so financially stable I can move out on my own. I told him that if I had to move out by myself just to have my own space, then this relationship is over because at that point, he's not thinking about us anymore, just himself. He thinks putting an ultimatum depending on where we live does not make sense. Am I being unreasonable for wanting to move out and live as a couple rather than roommates? Stories number 9. 3 days since I left my abusive home, and she still has no idea, can't make this shit up. Okay, so this subreddit has become a sort of safe space to me over this past week. I think many of you will recognize me as the 21F from England who left her abusive house with no idea where she would end up and with barely anything to her name. But for those who don't know and want to catch up, first post, second post, third post. So, today is day 3. I'm more settled now, I've been feeling comfortable in my independence. I've gone out and bought essential groceries for myself. I've been eating and I'm glad to say I'm alive and well. As the days go on, I feel so much confidence in the decision I took. I know there'll be a low point in the future, maybe once my period starts again next month and my hormones are out of whack, where my loneliness will overwhelm me, but I'm prepared. I know it's natural, it's inevitable and it'll pass. I've also got therapy scheduled for Wednesday, February 5th. I'm glad it's happening. I've simultaneously left the abusive environment and starting my healing journey. Yay. In regards to drama at the house I left, my little sister called me to tell me that my mother doesn't even know I'm gone yet. I mentioned in my previous posts that when my mom would fight with me and say the most horrible stuff, or in this case, hit me, she would ignore me for weeks. This is still the case, she's still ignoring me, so she hasn't checked my room. She hasn't seen me either, obviously lol I'm long gone, so she has assumed that I've barricaded myself inside my room and that I only come out when she's at work. With that context in mind, my sister told me the funniest things that have happened since I left. 2 days ago in the car when my mum was dropping my siblings off to school, she started shouting at my sister. Nothing new there, but my sister almost burst out laughing when my mother began ranting crazily about that sister of yours that hasn't even left her room in days and has stunk up the place. Is that who you want to be like? Then, yesterday morning, apparently she was angry at another sibling and went upstairs to shout at them for not being ready to go to school. She was passing my room and decided to knock aggressively whilst shouting through the door. She was yelling about how this is her house, I have no right to, her words, shout and abuse your own mother, then lock yourself in your room and avoid all responsibility. You will come out. If I am back and you're not out, then watch what happens. Mind you, she's saying all this with the door closed. It's 7 a.m, I'm not there, I'm 10 miles away sleeping in another bed. Who TF was she screaming at? When my sister was telling me this I was genuinely dying of laughter. I couldn't believe the level of ridiculousness. Like, what do you mean you're screaming at someone through the door, not knowing if they're there or not, yet wasting your breath anyway? She didn't even take a peek to ensure I had heard her. As funny as it was, it also made me realize the craziness I lived in my whole life. My mother felt so comfortable in abusing me because she genuinely believed there was no limit for me. All my other siblings, she holds back because she doesn't know how far she can go before they're irreversibly pushed away. With me, she exploited my sensitivity and clear desperation for a loving mother. She felt so comfortable saying whatever, doing whatever, thinking I'd never go anywhere despite it. The day after her attacking me, she was quiet, telling my sister to bring me food. She knew she was wrong, at least at first. The day after that, I left in the morning, as you all know. Since then, I haven't been back as I have everything I need for now. So she hasn't seen me. Yet she assumes I'm still there. And because she assumes I'm still there, she is relieved that the small doubt she had about me actually leaving, which came from me telling her I would after taking my suitcase upstairs on the day of the attack, was gone. And so because her belief that I'll never leave is reinforced again, she now feels comfortable twisting everything to make it seem like I was the one who attacked her, even shouting at me for it, through a closed door that I am not behind, lol. It's hilarious, this is what I'd have to endure if I stayed. I have never ever felt more secure in my decision than now. I was right, anything else would have been better for me than subjecting myself to more of her bullshit. Anyway, that's enough on the update front. I'm sure I'll have another story to tell when she finds out that I actually did leave. I wish I could be a fly on the wall to see that reaction. I've already blocked her because I do not want her contacting me at all, and that's bringing me much needed peace right now, smiley face. Edit. It's been 4 hours since I posted here. After reading some comments and thinking to myself, I've decided to unblock her just to ensure any messages that come through can be used as evidence if needed. Muting it though, just to preserve my peace like I mentioned. Stories number 10. Aita for throwing my wife's pillow out of the room. Not the a-hole. Last night when getting ready for bed I tried taking a picture of how my wife was laying in the bed to show her how little space I had. She made a joke of it and hid under the blankets. We have a king-size bed, have a toddler that sleeps between us, and my wife keeps a pillow between her and the toddler. I was trying to show my wife that her and her pillow already took up over half of the bed, leaving me with little to no space, especially once her toddler laid down. I tried telling her I needed more room but she kept making a joke of it. So I got in bed, grabbed the pillow she keeps at her back and tossed it into the hallway saying, "Here, this will help." The next thing I know my wife is furious, crying, and is gathering her other pillows and blankets saying, "If I'm that much of a problem you can just have the bed to yourself." Her and our toddler went to the toddler's room to sleep, that bed is a full. This morning my wife is still mad and barely speaking to me, so I ask Aita for throwing my wife's pillow out of the room. TLDR, wife takes up over half the bed with pillow wall between us. I tossed the divider pillow out of the room to allow myself more space. Stories number 11. My ex-girlfriend opened up 2 credit cards in my name after we broke up. She ran up about $7,500 in debt, mainly shopping at Nordstrom and Macy's. Her current boyfriend is now threatening me. My ex and I broke up a little more than a year ago. We lived together for a couple of years and I know she would have had access to my financial information. When we broke up, I moved out of the house we were renting and though I had everything of mine. Back in February when I was doing my taxes, I realized I could not find my folder with my previous year's tax returns anywhere. I assumed it got lost in the move and didn't think anything else of it. Last Friday, I got served for a lawsuit to the tune of over $5,000 for a defaulted credit card. When I went and actually pulled my credit, I saw that card had been defaulted since May and there was another one which had been closed since June for about $2,500. Seeing as I had no knowledge about this, I immediately disputed both of the accounts on all three bureaus' websites. I was able to talk with someone for one of the cards and they said it was opened in January, well after I had moved out of my old house, and the cards were sent there. I received the statements from the one card and it was probably 80% Nordstrom Macy's, two of the stores my ex loved shopping at. Pretty sure she was the one who opened the accounts, probably used my social security number from the old tax returns. I called my ex about it and she denied everything, even when I told her that eventually, if she had anything shipped to the house using a stolen credit card, she's going to get found out. She flipped and started screaming at me saying I can't seriously accuse her of anything and to never talk to her again. About 20 minutes later I get a call from a blocked number. It was her boyfriend threatening to make my life a living hell unless I stopped harassing her by claiming she stole my identity. He hung up but I was shaken up about it. I can see he's got some serious felonies just by looking at the public records on the county website. I'm kind of stuck here. I'm opening myself up to retaliation if I go forward with anything from someone who has charges of aggravated arson and aggravated discharge of a firearm, in addition to a few battery charges. I can't just not do anything though. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update: I followed the advice in the comments and went to the police. Quick and painless process, I was in and out in maybe 30 minutes with a report number. I never received another call from my ex or her BF. I gave the report number to the credit card companies and the credit bureaus. I was told I didn't have to do anything else at that point but to show up to the court date for the lawsuit. I learned through a mutual friend today that my ex was arrested this morning. Apparently the county put out a warrant for her last week, pulled her over on the way to work. It looks like she was charged and released pretty quickly. Also, I learned my ex and the BF who threatened me are no longer together. I don't think I have to worry about him anymore. The court date for the lawsuit is later this month but everything has already fallen off my report. My score has gone up probably 200 points. I'm still going to the court date just to make sure everything is good but it's looking like all good news from here on out. Update: I went to court in September and there was a local attorney representing the credit card company who was pretty nice to me. She had my account and she said that it would be dismissed and to stick around for a few minutes to get it cleared. I was one of two people who showed up for like 20 of her accounts. Apparently they get a huge percentage of default judgments. My entire case was dismissed and I haven't seen anything weird on my credit since. What is far less cool is that my ex got back together with the guy who threatened me, who promptly threatened me again from a private number the day after my ex had a hearing. I didn't even know his name at that point and I hung up on him after he said there would be problems if I didn't drop the case. About a week and a half ago she has her most recent hearing according to the court website with another one scheduled for early March. The next day I'm at work and get a call from my local PD saying my car, which was parked in front of my house, was hit by gunfire 5 times about 45 minutes prior. By the time I got home, they already had a plate from surveillance video and license plate cameras. The guy who owns the car matches the guy who was on camera at a gas station a few blocks from my house 10 minutes before the shooting getting into the car. My neighborhood has never had a shooting before is what I've been told and there was lots of video footage. I decided to get an order of protection against the car owner who I'm 99.999% sure is my ex's boyfriend. I got a follow-up call yesterday from an investigator. They got a warrant for him the day after it happened. When they went to pull him over because it alerted on the license plate readers, he just didn't stop. They declined to pursue the car and now he's just out. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking about moving. Stories number 12. My sister wants to use a burial plot she doesn't own. My sister, 54F, and I, 63M, are estranged for a lot of reasons. She was the golden child. I was given a 63 Chevy pickup when I got my driver's license. She got a Mustang convertible. I went to college and she did drugs and had children without marriage. I got student debt. She got a mobile home, which she, of course, lost, due to drugs. She had 2 wonderful kids that we were able to get taken from her and are doing well. Our father raised them. My father and mother were divorced in the 1970s due, in part, to the stress of my sister. My mother tried to help her. She let her live with her and helped her get jobs but she always relapsed. So now to the present situation, my father died 4 years ago and I bought him a nice burial plot in Bozeman, Montana. The plot is in my name and is in a very nice location in the veterans section. My mother died last summer. I went up and was at the hospital when she died. My sister was nowhere around. We were able to reconnect without her. My mom's will stated that my sister and I were supposed to get the house jointly but, somehow she got on the deed by right of survivorship which meant she got it. She tried to get me to help pay the remaining mortgage but that wasn't going to happen so she had to sail and I bought it. She was mad and took mom's remains and disappeared so we couldn't hold a ceremony. Now 6 months later, she reappears and says that she's paying for a burial. But here is the catch, my mother is a veteran so she has a veteran group to pay for the room, the VA for the headstone and I get a call from the funeral home asking if they bury her with dad. Someone who was divorced from for 50 years. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. In addition to the headstone, mom might also be eligible for burial at a U.S. veterans cemetery for free. Locate her DD 214 if you haven't already made other burial plans. Reply, we told her she could be buried for free at a national cemetery. My guess is she loves the plot I snagged for my dad and I admit it is nice. But, why is OOP responding to his sister? Reply, I am not responding to her. I have no way to respond to her, she blocked me a while ago. We have talked through lawyers, like the little prick who got her on the deed so the will was useless. The only reason I found out about this at all was the funeral home realized that the plot wasn't owned by my sister or my mother and tracked me down. They had my number because they buried my dad. OOP explains why he is not burying his mother's ashes with his father's. Reply, well there are two things. The grandkids want to get their grandma buried and away from my sister. They don't have the history I have with mom and dad. They saw them together without the fighting. So they want to get it done. They want to be able to visit them. My niece does take her kids to visit my dad's grave so this is a factor. Giving in to my sister just makes me sick. I was going to buy a plot when mom died last summer but she run with the remains. Now there is no time, so I am backed into a corner and the kids are more important than my hurt feelings. But I get to write the obituary. Update, in comments, I am going to update. I fat-fingered my original post. My sister is 57 not 54. My parents' divorce was official in 83 but they separated in 78 or so. I corrected this by answering some commenters. Was she really a terror as a kid? She got in drugs at 10 and was sneaking in boys at 13 when I was at college. This was 78 to 83. I was old of state. My father was retired Navy and there was a recession. My mom did work but it was a strain. I went through college on student loans, scholarships and jobs. They tried treatment and buying her good behavior. My brother basically quit the whole thing and joined the army. He was a member of the 101st so we are not all screwed up. Now the update. I talked to the funeral home today. It seems that my sister's plan was to place my mom's remain in the veteran wall at the cemetery. But Bozeman Cemetery is not part of the national cemetery system. Normally a wall interment would be free for a veteran but since Bozeman isn't part of the system, it is $500. So she points at dad's plot and said bury her there. The rest is history. The funeral calls me when they figure out the plot isn't owned by her or my dad and here we are. I am trying to see if we can get the wall slot again. The remains are back at the funeral home. ARF. Family, Update 1. So, the short backstory, my sister is a bitch who is holding my mother's remains hostage to get her way. She wants to bury my mother in the plot I own that I buried my father in. They have been divorced for more than 40 years. The update, after some research I offered to pay to inter my mother in the veteran wall. My sister threw a fit. Not directly to me, we don't talk. She just let the funeral home know she wouldn't return the remains. I would have to buy a few plot, but I just bought a house and I am furnishing it so money it tight. She knew that. It was mom's house and she is mad I bought it. She has driven by it several times. I am about to put it out on the short-term rental market. So, after talking to my family, the grandchildren and others, I have thrown in the towel. We are burying mom in dad's plot. She will have an ground brass marker. It kills me that my sister has reduced my mom's service to a brass welcome mat to my father's headstone. My family has said they will know but damn it hurts. My sister cannot take some money from the sale of the house and buy a plot or split the cost with me. Additional information from OOP. I guess this is a small update. I talked to the funeral home yesterday. My sister will be bringing the remains on the day of the burial and watching them. So switching it really isn't a possibility. I have to go back up this summer so I am going to look as arranging re-interning her then. As least it wouldn't be above freezing. Relevant comments. OOP explains his mother's background and her wishes after death. Reply, my mom is a veteran too. I am very proud of her service from 56 to 61. She could have been a secretary or medical assistant but decided to be an electronic technician. Not many females of those in the Navy. She worked on the early communication systems for the nuclear submarines in Rhode Island and San Diego. Leading-edge technology at the time. Last I talked to her, she wanted her ashes to spread in the mountains. Why my sister is insisting on this burial and holding the ashes hostage is a mystery. I am actually surprised I haven't had a ransom note yet. OOP provides details on why he is renting his mother's house out. Reply, I should add to this. The house was built in 2014, so wasn't the family home, but my sister smokes like crazy. It smelled bad. The carpet was stained, as were the walls and window coverings. The garage floor was stained with dog pee and smelled, so we tore out the carpet and painted with Cliz. We sealed the garage floor and put in new window treatments. The dishwasher had leaked, so we had to mold remediation, and the HVAC system had issues. So we expect, with the market, to get a positive return in 2 years or so. Then we can come back and remodel the bathrooms and move in or keep it for income. That was my Christmas holiday. Putting my mom's retirement house back into proper condition. I think she would like it. OOP shouldn't given in to his sister's demands. Reply, well, with mother gone, she has lost her last chip in the game. We haven't spoken in year except through lawyers or via my mother. She lost the house she inherited and has had to move far from Bozeman. Her kids hate her. Her grandkids run to me when I come up there. My son used to like her but now can't stand her after what she pulled at his sister's wedding. She won this one, but really at what cost? Why did the cemetery allow this mess to happen regarding placing OOP's mother in his father's plot? Reply, the cemetery didn't. Once they realized this plot she was talking about, they called me for permission. That is what started this mess. Update 2. Today is the day of the burial. I was going to update afterwards just to say we got it done, but the last 20 hours hit. My sister cancelled the room at the funeral home and made it a graveside service only. She got a refund for the room. The reason she gave, they are shooting guns for the salute and that should be outside. I found out when the funeral home called last night to ask me to pick up the urn and take it to the grave. My sister is in a wheelchair and cannot come graveside. I sent the word out on the family message and her son, the only one who talks to her, exploded, as did her daughter. He called and she cried. An honest answer would probably be I needed drug money and the disability check is days away, but. So I arranged to get a table at a military-themed restaurant in Bozeman. If you are from the area, you know the one, and we will gather there to tell stories. Just a few minutes ago I get a call from the funeral home and they were offering a room at a discount, but we are sticking with our plans. Some comments I would like to make. Some people think I am blaming my sister for becoming addicted to drugs and alcohol at 10. I am not. I blame my parents for moving to a drug-rich area, the government for not handling the drug issue, and the medical establishment for not seeing addiction as the disease it was at the time. My post would be much longer if I went into the social and political issues of the late 70s and early 80s and how it broke up the nuclear family. I blame my parents for trying to buy her good behavior and a recession for the stress that ended their marriage. They also never forced her to finish school, which limited her ability to succeed. I blame her for wasting the multiple opportunities she was given as an adult. She was given a car, repossessed, a mobile, lost because she spent the welfare money on drug instead of space rent, a truck, partially restored 63 Chevy C10, sold for drug money, lost custody of 2 kids how have turned out well. This list doesn't include the money she has taken from people over the years. As far as this funeral goes, my mother would have been buried in her home state of Pennsylvania near her family but in September if my sister hadn't raked her remains and disappeared. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you may want to check ownership of that plot. If she is anything like my sibling, she may have sold it from under the family. My sibling trashed all the living trust information our parents had set up. I tried to get them to change it years ago. They didn't. Now they are stuck and I can't help them, or myself. Reply, this all started when my sister sent out a message that she paid for the funeral for mom, who died in September, and she took the remains while her daughter and I were in the process of planning the funeral. I got a call from the funeral home, same one that buried my dad 4 years ago, that she told them to bury her in the same plot. They have been divorced since 1983. She found out that it cost her to bury her in the veteran wall in Bozeman because it had not achieved the VA approval yet. I bought that plot for my dad. Commenter 2, in your earlier post, you said the VA paid for the room? But she got the refund when she cancelled. I feel like that's something she could get into a lot of trouble for. No. Reply, I believe you are referring to the $500 that the state of Montana provides to veterans for burials I mentioned. The VA pays for the markers and a plot in a national cemetery. But your point is taken. I am wondering what the costs were. Commenter 3, could you possibly move your mom later? We have had issues like this in our home country where they went and disturbed my aunt's remains just to put someone not related to us that everyone was opposed to. It was wild, but it's kind of done. But if your parents were divorced, why would they be kept together? I guess I would only put them together if I myself wanted to be close to both of them. I am sorry for your losses, I am sorry for your sister being so troubled. I hope she can find a way out and mental health assistance. Reply, that is what we are thinking of doing this summer. Update 3. The service was Thursday at 1 and the American Legion Gallatin Valley Post 14 did the final salute with the rifle volley and taps. The Navy sent an officer and enlisted to do the flag presentation. I told them about her service and said some words to the people who came, but being in a snow-covered field limited who could come. Afterwards we meet at a restaurant and told stories. The grandkids were really interested in what kind of mother she was and was surprised when we told them she drove a motorcycle to work. Now I am sure you are interested in what happened with my sister. When I arrived at the funeral home I was shocked to find what little she had arranged for. I drove her remains to the grave site and my brother actually put them into the ground. At my dad's funeral, we arranged for a hearse to take his remains up to the cemetery. It was a little funny, me, my wife, my brother and my mom's urn took a quick drive down Main Street Bozeman so we could say goodbye before hitting the cemetery. Well, while the ceremony was going on, a SUV came up. It was my sister watching from the road. I arranged for the flag to go to my brother since I had my dad's flag. I could see her shouting as he was presented the flag. After that we each said something over the grave and headed to our cars. My sister called her son over and handed her 2 bags containing vials of mom ashes for him and my niece. At the restaurant they gave them to me and my brother, they are great kids. She then drove by yelling at me for ruining the ceremony or something, then drove off. So that's it until summer when we will decide to either move mom to Pennsylvania to be with her family. My brother is looking into that issue, or a national cemetery. Or we scatter her ashes. I would like to address some comments made. Why am I short-term renting the house? My initial plan was long-term rental until my wife and I retired in 2 to 3 years. My son, while working on the house, has fallen in love with Montana and wants to move up at the end of summer. So we are short-term renting until then. I have met with some neighbors and given them my contact information in case a client gets out of hand. The house is near ski and outdoor adventure activities, so I don't see a problem. I do not blame my 10-year-old or 13-year-old sister. It is the 30-plus-year-old woman who never taken the opportunities to get straight seriously. I also blame my parents, but they paid with their marriage and the fact they never had the retirement they wanted. I also blame the government, but that is a major rant. Why didn't I take her kids? I tried, but in California they will fight to keep the kids with a bad mother. My wife and I would buy groceries and take it to them. I took the kids to the dentist. But we were limited to what we could do, and she knew if she gave up the kids she would lose a bargaining chip. It was a cloak and dagger operation to get the kids to Montana, and then in front of a judge that finally saved them. Relevant comments. Commenter, didn't your sister say they were shooting guns off at the funeral? Yep, they don't do that. My dad was Navy retired, he was in for 25 years. He was buried 5 years ago. They sent 2 soldiers to escort the urn and stand at attention, but that is the extent of it. I would take everything your sister says with a grain of salt. It sounds like she lies a lot. So, I would not spend too much time on that, the things she says and her behavior. Reply, I was there. The American Legion Post fired a salute for both my dad and mom. They provide the shell casing to the family afterwards. Commenter 2, I'm sorry, I know this isn't funny, but all I can imagine is some crazy lady doing drive-bys and yelling out the window at a funeral service. Commenter 3, glad you finally got it all resolved and you said goodbye to your mom. Stories number 13. Aita 4, not acknowledging my GF's equity in the house we live in. I, 38M, met my GF, 32F, 7 years ago when I was looking for a house. At the time, she was working for a guy who did custom carpentry, and we were introduced by a mutual acquaintance who I told I wanted to redo the kitchen in the house. She and her boss did some work for my kitchen renovation. We remained in touch, and about 5 years ago, we started dating. About 3 years ago, she moved in. We maintain separate finances at my insistence. I have 2 kids. I pay 100% of the mortgage, homeowner's insurance, HOA fees, and any maintenance costs that arise. We split groceries and utilities historically. About 4 months ago, my GF lost her job. She has been looking, but has not found anything. She has been paying most of her expenses using savings. About 2 months ago, I was reached out to by a realtor. There is an older couple originally from the area looking to move back. They looked at another house that was for sale in the neighborhood, but they saw my house on the outside and really loved it. He said they would be willing to pay a premium. I let them do a walkthrough and they made me an insane offer. After talking to my GF, I accepted. We are now looking for a new place. My GF has approached me about collecting on her equity when the sale is finalized. I thought she was joking, but she was serious. I maintain she does not have equity in the house. She thinks she does because of what work she did in the kitchen during the renovation and helping maintain the house. She was paid for her renovation work, it was before we were dating. The maintenance she does on the house is cleaning and occasionally unclogging a toilet and or changing the smoke alarm batteries. I do not think that is grounds for equity in the house. Aita comments. Commenter 1. NTA. I'm also a woman in my 30s and this is insane. You paid for the work she did before your relationship, so that was not a investment of any kind on her part, and certainly can't be considered. You pay for all the house costs. The work she does around the house, at most, could be considered a favor to you for offering her free housing. Sheesh. Commenter 2. Honestly, I own a house as a woman and I have charged previous BF's rent, because that's what adults do, they pay for living spaces. It's crazy to me that someone who put no money down and paid minimal expenses expects to get large sums of money. GF had all those years of not paying rent, she should have been banking some serious cash, then she wouldn't ask for handouts. Any equity is OP's, maybe his kids. Commenter 3. NTA, now ask if she wants to talk about the 5 years' worth of rent that she owes. Edit. By the way, you now see what type of person your GF is, would suggest that you go find a new one. Update. A few weeks ago I posted about my GF of 5 years wanted equity in my house I am selling. Well, I found out the reason she wanted the equity is because she wanted to leave the relationship. About 8 months ago, she had asked me if I would get a vasectomy reversal and consider having kids with her. I have 2 already. I told her no. She apparently wants kids now. After that conversation, she started planning her exit strategy, but then lost her job. She thought I would give her at least a little bit of equity. If I gave her 5% of the sales price, that would be enough for her to leave. Well, after learning all this, I broke up with her. House is set to close in the next 30 days, so my now ex needs to find a new place by then. She has limited funds and asked me for a loan and or to spot her some money. I refuse. So, that is where we stand after everything. Comments. Commenter 1. Glad you got your answers. Now this can be a real fresh start in a new house without any of it reminding you of your ex. Commenter 2. She wanted equity in the house but ended up with a no equity relationship. She's trying to cash in on the wrong investment. Commenter 3. No, she was trying a Hail Mary to get scammed some cash from op before she moved on. Stories number 14. Racist customer demanded we fire and replace our employees with white American employees even though we are an immigrant-owned business. I am unsure if this is the right place to post this, but I need to post about it regardless. Also, I obviously won't be using real names. Okay, I, 28F, live here in Colorado, but my family and I immigrated here to the States from the former Yugoslavia, with my mother being Serbian and my dad being Montenegrin. My dad owns his own renovation business which he was inspired to set up after watching the TV show Home Improvement, and even though I have my own full-time job, I do casual work for my dad's business, mainly doing office admin and payroll work. My dad has 2 employees, both of whom are Filipino, and one day we had a customer who booked a job and my dad sent his 2 employees to go to the customer's house only for the customer to turn them away, telling them to leave. My dad's worker, who I will call Miguel, texted me to say that the client told them to leave, so I just assumed that they changed their mind and wanted to cancel the job. However, literally a few minutes after the text from Miguel, I received a call from the customer, who I will call Ken, who angrily complained about having 2 Chinese employees come over to his place, complained about them stealing jobs from white men, and actually demanded that we fire them, replace them with white employees and send over an employee who is white and not an immigrant. I pretty much knew how this conversation was going to play out, but decided to just roll with it and tell him that those 2 Asian men were our only employees and that our business is an immigrant-owned business, as my dad and I are both immigrants from Montenegro. Ken then demanded that we at least send over an employee who is white, and I told him that it makes no difference if the employee is white or not, as the fact my family and I are European makes us not really indifferent to immigrants from the Philippines, China, Mexico, or wherever. He then accused us of stealing jobs, saying things along the lines of, "This is Trump's America now," and that we do not deserve the business, and after letting him rant, I just told him to find someone else to do the job, then hung up. Stories number 15. Whipped for changing my name passed down from generation to generation. My dad's name is Bert. My grandfather is Bertram. My great-grandfather is Bertrand. And the naming convention repeats ad infinitum. All sons in the family get the same name or a twist on the same name. My brother is Robert, which was controversial at the time. My uncle is Bart, likewise controversial. Those who deviate like these examples have got shit for it, but nothing too serious. This tradition has been going back at least a couple of centuries. At least my brother has a normal name that isn't too uncommon like Bert. My name? Bergamo. I could go on and on, paragraph after paragraph about why I hate my name. I always have. You cannot imagine the bullying and name-calling I've got in my life. I'm 17. Soon I'll be 18. When that happens, I'm going to change my name to something completely unrelated. I expressed as much to my parents and I guess it got through the grapevine to the rest of my paternal family and no one is happy. My dad is indifferent but is upset I don't like the name he gave me, but my grandfather is apparently so upset I'll be written out of his will. I don't know what a career fisherman is going to leave me in his will, but I think I'll be okay. The thing is that I kind of like some tradition like this going back dozens of generations. It's just this specific tradition I think is stupid. If it was something like a pendant passed down to first sons or something like that, then fine, but I have to live with my name on display 24/7 for my whole life. But then again, this is really the only family tradition we have. My brother is married and is already brainstorming Bert names. Wipta for changing my name. Update. For some more context on how big of a deal the naming convention is, I replied to another comment with more info, but I'll post it here too. Whenever a new son is born, they consult a document family tree to see if the name is already in use by a living relative, but only going linearly up. I can't have the same name as any living father, grandfather, great-grandfather, etc., or any of their children, but I can share the same name as my uncle's children because it's not going directly upwards in the family tree, it's going up, and then down in a divergent path. I have over 20 Bert cousins or children of cousins to give an idea how widespread it is, and they do have records going back to at least the 1780s. Before that we're unsure because no one kept physical evidence. The first one was a Bertram, but the story allegedly goes it was an offshoot of Bert and the real root name is Bert. Every single son in my father's lineage is named in this convention. At a time in the early 1900s, there were a few Bertha to start a new female tradition, but it never took off. My family justifies it by being a common denominator we can all connect by. I'm actually close to relatives that diverted from our family, but kept the naming, in the late 1800s. I'm close to family who have lived abroad for generations. We all connect by this name, so I guess it works. My family's huge on family, if it's not obvious. For what it's worth, it's Bertamo. My mother's Italian, hence my brother is Robert, keep in mind. On my father's side it's Mutville, I don't know. Our earliest recorded ancestors were from Germany, but there's a large portion from the Netherlands, and many from Newfoundland, Canada, which I guess was English at a point. Our family is large with parts in Scandinavia, Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, France, etc. Top comments. Commenter 1. NAH, why not keep it as a middle for them and change your first? Commenter 2. NTA. In fact, IDGAF if no one agrees, but I think your parents are assholes for naming you Bertamo. Jesus. I'm sorry you had to deal with teasing like that. Parents who name their kids whatever they feel like with no regard for how that kid will feel carrying that name irk me. Commenter 3. NAH, my uncle was named Adolfo. He was born a few years before World War II. He changed it the moment he turned 18. Update. I made a previous thread and wanted to make an update. I turned 18 in May, which also coincided with me finishing high school the next month. I wanted to get my name change done before I began college because it would be a headache to change it in their systems, and Lord knew I didn't want Bertamo to be on my degree were I to graduate. My parents had other plans and wanted to bring me on a trip. The trip was half so my mother can go to Italy to visit some of her family and my dad bringing me to Germany and the Netherlands to visit some of his family. In the 3 weeks we were gone, I got to meet literally hundreds of my family members, most of them Bert or some alteration. The purpose of this trip was to get me to change my mind, and you know what? I had a great time. It was really reflective and introspective as I got to meet some other Berts my own age and listen to their thoughts on their name. A lot of men and boys my age or around my age struggle with the name because even in Germany NL, the name isn't common. And some of them do change their names. I met family who did just that and even some who said they regret it. I even met Bert Bay who wears his name on his shoulder with pride. The most common sentiment was it's a commonality between family members and that should be protected. Something that stood out to me was if you were to meet a Bert anywhere in the world, chances are pretty good they belong to our family. There were stories of Berts meeting as strangers and leaving as friends and family. Everyone believed this was the most important part as it means all you need to look for is a name to know your family. I'll be honest and say it got to me. So much so I decided to keep my name. It's nothing to be embarrassed about and truthfully, A lot of posts in the previous thread said my name was beautiful and unique, and it made me think maybe it's worth holding on to. And after starting college last month, I say my name in pride. I've already made a few connections just because my name is so out there. I stand out, which is a bad thing in high school but a good thing in college. Thanks to everyone who gave judgment last thread, and I hope my little story of closure is an interesting read. Top comment: if you change your mind, then change your name to Ernie just to troll them. Stories number 16. Falling in love with my late husband's best friend. What should I do? I, 28F, lost my husband, 32M, to suicide. He left behind me and our at the time 14-month-old daughter. It was very unexpected with no history of mental health or anything. It was traumatic to say the least. I've been seeing a therapist since it happened, and although I know the grief will always be there, it's not nearly as heavy anymore. I feel as if I'm in a pretty good place with it mentally. He made the choice he did, and I don't deserve to live the rest of my life suffering from his decision. My late husband had a very close-knit group of friends that grew up together. We'd all hang out often, go on trips, etc. Since his passing they've been very supportive, and I actually think we're all even closer now in our shared grief. One of these friends, 31M, is not married and doesn't have kids, so he's been more available to help out with things. As time's gone on, we've grown pretty close and text daily. He's funny and kind, and he makes me smile. Him and my LH had a lot in common in terms of interests, but they're also very different personality-wise. He brings a sense of calm and understanding that I never really felt with my LH. He's also wonderful with my daughter and always has been. So was my LH. Before he passed, my LH would always say this friend needed to find a girl and get married because he'd be a great dad. I think we've both had some feelings for each other for a while now, but have danced around the subject. He finally just came out and said it the other day and asked if I felt it too. We talked about it and both really enjoy each other but are afraid of how it may look. Neither of us want to rush into anything, but we both see potential for a future. I want to give my daughter a father figure one day and some siblings, and I know the older she gets the harder it will be to introduce someone. The idea of trusting anyone with her is hard, and I trust him fully. Beyond that, we can talk about my LH without it being awkward or upsetting, and he understands my emotions because he's grieving too. I personally feel like as much as I loved my LH, he made that decision to leave and I have to move forward and find happiness again for myself and my daughter. It just feels right with him. We connect on so many levels and I already trust him. I also love that he has memories of him that he can share with our daughter. That being said, we both feel a little guilty for feeling this way. Our biggest setback is worrying about others' reactions. Particularly his other friends and my in-laws. I know this doesn't look great from an outsider's perspective. How should we proceed? Relevant comments. How long has it been since OOP's husband's passing? Reply, a little over a year. My daughter is now 2. Just got lost in writing it all out and forgot to include that part. It's recent but not that recent. Commenter 1, have you done any grief therapy? It helps. That said, feel your feelings. Don't worry about what anyone thinks but your child. This will affect her tremendously. How does she feel about him? Reply, I have been going to a therapist regularly since 2 weeks out. She's only 2 and she likes pretty much everyone including him. Haha. Commenter 2, can I ask if you and the friend had a connection at all before your husband passed? No judgment, just wondering how things like this happen. I do not know why you would feel guilty about this, it's kind of sweet. Reply, not sure what you mean by connection. Of all his friends he was probably the one I always related to most, but I was happily married and didn't think of him as anything other than his friend. Commenter 3, do you think this would anger or bother your husband? Or do you think he would be happy and relieved that his friend is watching over you now that he can't? Reply, I really don't know. I'd like to think he would be happy that someone he trusts could potentially help raise his daughter. But also maybe he'd hated it, and unfortunately he's not here to ask. I still talk to him occasionally when I'm alone and struggling with something, at my therapist's suggestion. A few weeks ago I talked to him about this, and when I got in the car on the way to go see this friend, a song came on the radio with lyrics about the singer wanting his wife to move on if he died. It felt like he heard me, and that was a sign from him. Or at least I like to think so. Maybe I'm just going crazy. Commenter 4, don't feel bad for how you feel and don't worry what people think. You can't help who you love. You're right, you have to move forward and find happiness, and it sounds like you're doing just that. Wishing you all the happiness. Update, we decided to slowly step into being more than just friends and test the waters a bit. He took me out to eat at a nice restaurant this week and we had a great time. He kissed me goodnight and it felt exactly like what my heart needed. We don't plan to rush things and my priority is my daughter. Since she's only 2 we plan to just continue like normal with her. She loves having him around to play with and he loves playing with her so it's a win-win. I talked with my sister-in-law about it first and she was not surprised nor upset by it. She said it will be hard no matter who it was but she thinks it's great that he fits in the family so well. My in-laws reacted similarly and just said they ultimately want me to be happy. We haven't talked about it to friends yet but plan to bring it up slowly. Top comments. Commenter 1, you have been blessed again with a good man. Commenter 2, there's nothing wrong with it OP, go for it. I imagine if there's an afterlife, your LH would be happy that you found someone to fill the void that left, much more so someone he trusts to be great to you and your daughter. Commenter 3, I think it's normal to be attracted to a friend of your LH. They were friends because they had similar interests and traits, you're attracted to those too. He's familiar and comfortable to be around, you know and trust each other already. Your child knows them, the friend group knows them and you all fit together. It's easy to fall for someone you already know and care for and your friend group will accept the relationship. Everyone too will probably be happy with you moving on with someone they know. Stories number 17. Aita for not going to my coworker's birthday party. So I, 24F, work at a high school with my coworkers Carrie, 29F, Leslie, 26F, and Marissa, 30F. All of us get along well, we eat lunch together every day and go out for drinks to de-stress from work lol. Leslie and Marissa are a lot closer to Carrie than I am for context. 2 weeks ago, Carrie made a group chat with our coworkers for her 29th birthday party but I wasn't included. I didn't know until Leslie asked me what present I was buying for Carrie. When I told Leslie that I didn't know about the party, she asked me if I was arguing with Carrie. Honestly I wasn't mad about not being invited. Me and Carrie aren't that close and she can choose whoever she wants as her birthday guests. Leslie told me the date and place of Carrie's party but I didn't plan to go because I don't want to be rude and come uninvited. Last Saturday was Carrie's birthday. I sent her a happy birthday message and hope that she enjoys her day. Carrie said thank you and we had a small conversation about her plans. I didn't get an invite from her so I decided to stay home. On Sunday, I got some text messages from Marissa that went like this. Marissa, hey why didn't you go to Carrie's birthday party last night? Me, oh I'm not in her group chat so I thought that I wasn't invited. Marissa, didn't Leslie tell you where it was? You could have shown up. Me, yeah but Carrie didn't invite me, I don't want to be rude by coming without her knowing. Marissa, but still we're coworker besties, you should have asked Carrie if you could go. Me, if Carrie wanted me at her birthday she would have told me. We talked yesterday morning, convo ended there. Today's now Friday, 5 days since then, and the 3 of them completely avoid me. We used to eat lunch together in the staff lounge but now they eat in Carrie's classroom. And whenever I pass one of them during morning duty they just stare and ignore. The past few days were really rough and I've cried during my lunches because they were my support system since I started teaching. I genuinely thought we were friends but now I'm just rethinking about everything. Aita for not going. Sum of comments. Commenter, honestly, you should talk to Carrie about this. Let her nip it in the bud. I'm sure she won't be happy. They're trying to force someone she didn't invite to go to her party. Reply, yes I've been trying to reach out to Carrie through texts and visiting her during her off period, but she's giving me the cold shoulder too. I don't know why things changed after 2 years. Commenter, there's a saying, your work friends are just that, work friends and not outside of work. Keep your distance from work buddies in the future. Friendly is okay but don't let your guard down. These gals sound like mean girls from high school that didn't mature. Reply, that's true, I guess it's hard for me to separate work from personal life because teaching literally takes up everything. I've known them for 2 years and we really did get along well but I guess things can change. Commenter, you weren't invited, so you didn't go. And even if you were invited, that doesn't make you an asshole. Be careful though. I think someone is stirring the pot here. And I don't think it's OP. Edit to add, NTA. Reply, thanks for the insight. I'm really hoping that no one's trying to stir the pot cause I hate workplace drama. But I'm probably gonna cut ties with my coworkers for how they're treating me, just really sucks right now. Update post. Gonna use the top comment to give y'all an update. Earlier today I sent a message to both Leslie and Marissa telling them how I felt. Leslie left me on read. Marissa sent me this text in verbatim, okay is that how you feel? After everything that I did to help you when you were struggling? Don't talk to me at work. Later Carrie asked if she can call me. According to her, Leslie texted the group chat that I was going, even though I wasn't invited. So Carrie reserved a spot for me at her birthday dinner. When I didn't show up, Carrie took it as me ghosting her. She was upset and told everyone else what happened, hence the silent treatment. I told her that I never got an invite and our previous conversation didn't imply that I was attending. We kept talking for a bit and in the end Carrie needed some time to think about the situation. Will I continue being friends with them? No. I'll be cordial but keeping it strictly work-related. I'll have to find some better friends. TLDR, coworker planned a party that I wasn't invited to. I chose not to go, but another coworker lied that I was attending. Everyone thought I bailed out and gave me the silent treatment. Lesson learned, don't trust some of your coworkers' workplace drama is not worth it. Stories number 18. I hid my best friend's suicide letter and I don't know what to do. 1 year ago my best friend of 2 years committed suicide. It was a shock. Her parents were broken, so me and another friend volunteered to clean her room. Under her bed I found the letter she left. I put it in my pocket and when I got home I read it. The letter was horrible. She wrote that she hates her life and her family and she regrets that she was born. I folded the letter and put it in my closet. I never told anyone. I know I'm a bad person because one of the things that hurt her parents the most was that she didn't leave a letter, but I couldn't let them read it. I think about it every day since I was 15 years old at the time. Update. So I read the comments. I saw a lot of people saying I did the right thing and also comments of people cursing me out. I want to say I know that what I did is wrong, but I was a 15-year-old girl that just lost her best friend. I didn't know what else to do. Her parents gave us permission to throw out things that we think are garbage. I was about to throw it away when I decided to see what was in the paper. I opened and I saw what it was. I put it in my pocket and hoped that we will find another letter, but we didn't. I didn't decide yet if I should give them the letter because I'm scared of their reaction. Stories number 19. Aita for grounding my daughter and canceling her senior trip after I found out she was cheating on her boyfriend. I have 2 daughters, Lizzie, 17F, and Mackenzie, 14F. Their dad and I divorced a few years ago after I discovered he was having an affair. I have the kids most of the time, and their dad has them every weekend and during the summers. Lizzie has been dating Jacob, 18M, for over a year now. Jacob is constantly at our house. He's a sweet, good young man, and I believe he'll be valedictorian of their class. However, a few weeks ago, I overheard Lizzie on the phone with a guy, clearly flirting. At first, I thought it was Jacob, but then I heard her say, Brandon. I realized she was talking to someone else. Then a week later, she mentioned to me that she was heading out to hang with a friend, and when I looked out the window, I saw her get into a car and greet a guy with a kiss. It wasn't Jacob. Even after that, Jacob continued to come over, hanging out with Lizzie. He and Lizzie still acted like a couple, holding hands, laughing, and spending time together, just like they always had. I felt disgusted knowing my daughter was being a two-timer. After Jacob left that day, I confronted my daughter. I asked her point blank, "Are you cheating on your boyfriend with another guy?" She said it was none of my business and that her personal life was hers only. I told her she was wrong and that I raised her better than to treat people like this. She told me she was bored with Jacob and that Brandon was more her type now. I told her that if she wasn't happy, she should just break up with Jacob. She said she didn't know if she wanted to be with Brandon or if she was just having fun flirting and teasing. I told her cheating was unacceptable and wrong, and as a consequence, I grounded her. I also told her she wasn't allowed to go on her senior trip with her friends. She obviously did not take that too well and has been at her dad's place for the last couple of days. My ex-husband called me, saying I was being unreasonable not letting her go on the trip and that her and Jacob was just a high school thing. He then told me I needed to put my bitterness aside and stop punishing his daughter. I told him I was teaching our daughter right from wrong, and that actions have consequences. Ada has no consensus bot. OOP received mixed reactions. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. Your post sounds like Lizzie's a daddy's girl and he's been green-lighting her behavior. Reply, he's definitely the fun parent. Dad gives them money and takes them on trips while I do the actual parenting. My youngest needed a physical exam for soccer tryouts and he couldn't even be bothered to do that. Is the father going to undermine OOP and let Lizzie go on her senior trip? Reply, we agreed to split the costs of the trip. He wants to buy her a car for graduation gift, so he asked me to pitch in for the senior trip costs. He typically pays for big things like this. He has told me he will pay for the entire trip himself if he has to in order for her to go. Commenter 2, this isn't about your husband. This is about you and your daughter. You bringing up your husband's cheating tells everything. You didn't ask if your husband was an AH for cheating. Yes, he was. This is about you punishing your daughter because he cheated on you. That makes you a horrible parent, and him cheating doesn't change if he was a good parent or not. It makes him a shitty husband. One can be a great parent and a shitty partner. Reply, our divorce impacted our kids and both daughters' grades started to fall when we were going through the divorce. I had to pick up the pieces and hold our family together. The girls are back on track, but it was not easy. Your father packing his bags and becoming a weekend day does impact the kids. I only mentioned it because you called me a bad parent. How long has Lizzie been with Jack and how is their relationship? Reply, they've been together for almost 2 years. Jacob is at our house almost daily. He attends family functions. He's not just some high school thing. Commenter 3, teens evolve and learn from their mistakes. Your punishment is not teaching her the lesson, simply making her not like you. Teaching her empathy and the impact on Jacob's and Brandon's feelings by having a conversation with her, without discipline, will open the lines of communication and make her more open to talking to you. Why would she confide in you if she could be punished? Reply, how can she learn if she does not believe she is wrong? She thinks this is okay and she's not hurting anyone because Jacob doesn't know. She thinks telling Jacob will hurt him. Update, I received a lot of good advice from my original post and wanted to provide an update. My daughter has been at her dad's house since my last post. I called her saying I'm reconsidering canceling her senior trip, but she needs to tell me what's going on with this new guy, Brandon. She reiterated that it's not serious and she's just having fun. I told her she needs to decide which guy she actually wants to be with. She said she doesn't want Brandon, but he's fun and Jacob can be too serious and controlling. She likes how chill Brandon is. She kept saying she doesn't understand why I care so much, that I'm supposed to be on her side, and that I'm acting like Jacob is my child, and not her. I told her that wasn't the issue. The issue is that cheating is wrong, and she's hurting Jacob, who she claims to love. She says she's not hurting him because he doesn't know about Brandon. I told her she's going to have to tell him, and only then will she be allowed to go on her senior trip. She said she couldn't do that. She still wants Jacob, but he can be annoying sometimes, and she needs a change of pace. I told her it was wrong to use both of these guys. I asked her if Brandon goes to the same school, and she said no, that he isn't in school at all. I tried pressing her on how old Brandon is, but she wouldn't give me a clear answer. She just kept saying he's not that much older, but not in school. After the call, I contacted my ex-husband to express our concerns about this new guy and how secretive our daughter is being about him. He told me I need to stop being a helicopter parent and let our daughter make her own mistakes and decisions about her love lives. I told him we don't know anything about this Brandon guy, and how can he not be concerned about him? He said he trusts our daughter and that she is nearly an adult and that I'm just being controlling and projecting my issues onto her. I told him with how little we know about this Brandon and her not willing to at least break up with Jacob, there is no way she is going on the senior trip. My ex-husband got upset saying I cannot make these decisions on my own and that she is his daughter too. He told me he'll be paying for the full senior trip and that I need to back off if I want our daughter to ever come back home. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, as a mother, my ears would be perking up at my daughter telling me her boyfriend is controlling. I'd act like I'm her mother, which you are, and get more information on that, before trying to push her into the hands of a potential psycho. Reply, I know Jacob. They've been together for almost 2 years. She has never mentioned him being controlling until she wants to justify her cheating. Commenter 2, but you didn't even question that further. That's a huge red flag on your end, to me. You have already seemingly decided that Jacob is blameless without interrogating that statement further, because you are so invested in your daughter's wrongdoing that you cannot conceive of a more complex rationale for her behavior. You may be right, but as a mother you owe it to her to dig into that statement to find out more. Reply, he is a bit nerdy who takes school very seriously. I think my daughter perceives certain traits as controlling. Like before all this happened she wanted to go to a friend's house to hang out and Jacob insisted they needed to study for an exam they had coming up. Commenter 3, you're her mother. It's not your business if she's cheating on her boyfriend or not. As long as she is safe you can give advice, but can't punish her for the way she chooses to live her life. There are limits between what a parent can and can't do, you know. Sometimes it's just not our business and you are just her mother, she's her own person. Reply, what my daughter does is always my business. Commenter 3, you can always worry about her but you cannot interfere with her decision at this point. She is a human being, she's not an extension of you and you can't control her. That's the thing about parenthood, knowing from start you're raising a person, and you can bet they're gonna make 1,000 things you don't agree with and, well, it's not under your control. You care for her and are here for her, but about the punishment, don't you see you are out of line there? It's her relationship, you can't punish her for cheating on someone, it's way out of a mother's jurisdiction. Try to talk with her, know your limits and express you want her to be safe. Not sure there's anything you could do but that. Reply, nothing is out of a mother's jurisdiction when it comes to their children. Nothing. Stories number 20. Aita for getting fully naked in a public changing room. I'm a college student who recently took up track as a hobby. I was on the swim team all throughout high school, but aside from that haven't done any organized sports before. After practice most of the guys take a shower before heading to classes. I was having a chat with a couple of the other guys on the team and getting changed at the same time. When I pulled down my pants one of the guys just said, "WTF dude," in a really shocked tone. I asked what the matter was. He said to go find a stall if I wanted to do that, or don't bother changing underwear. Now, I sweat like crazy so obviously wanted to change underwear. But the stalls were being occupied and I didn't think it was expected to wait. It's a changing room, in my experience people change. It's not that big of a deal. We all shower after swim practice and nobody cares in the slightest. I'm comfortable in my own body and didn't think it was a big deal, but obviously don't want to make others uncomfortable either. Aita. Stories number 21. Employee refuses to attend a client meeting due to religious reasons. We have an important client meeting, and I have a Muslim employee, good employee overall, that refuses to go to the client meeting because they serve alcohol and he refuses to be present. I want to be understanding but, 1. I worry that he is just using his religions to get away from a professional obligation. Since the meeting is not within work hours. 2. I fear that this is going to set a precedent of employee refusing to do tasks based on personal beliefs. 3. I fear that this will open up the door of other team members that will start to refuse to do things because they don't want to. I sent him a message that goes, that I respect your personal beliefs but that should not be a reasons to skip out on job duties. What would you have done in this case? Be understanding of your employee's choice and let it go. Accept and show that you are not satisfied. Refuse the excuse of religion. P.S. I try to be very understanding in general, when it comes to accommodating my members, but I feel like in wanting to be accommodating, some employee are taking the opportunity to test my boundaries. Edit, to add details. It's a dinner meeting, clients usually expect champagne, not serving alcohol is not an option. Overtime is paid, so it's not a question of pay. Comments. Commenter 1. Consult with an HR and EEO specialist. The last thing that you want is to this guy to quit, and file an EEO claim and lawsuit if this is a covered activity. Commenter 2. You need a reality check. It's outside of work hours, they serve things that conflict with his religion, and you claim he is refusing work. It's his free time. Either you go yourself, choose to pay someone else to do that or even better plan meetings in non-alcoholic spots. Commenter 3. Not only is alcohol present, OP says they serve it to clients, well champagne I think but they can't spell it so probably just sparkling wine. So the employee feels uncomfortable with the drinking at the meeting, which is entirely reasonable. Especially since it is outside work hours and frankly not a super particular job where dining with clients is a huge part of it. It sounds like they're hourly, overtime, and this isn't like a, everyone in our field knows you have to go out to X, sounding thing. It's ironic OP feels their boundaries being tested when they seem to be the one trampling over boundaries. Update. As many people suggested in the original post, I respected the team members' religious beliefs and started looking for someone else to attend the meeting. To encourage participation, I even offered a great deal for anyone willing to go to the business dinner and meet the client. So, guess who, out of all the volunteers, suddenly decided could attend? Yep, the same guy who originally said he couldn't go because of his beliefs. When I called him out on it, he claimed he hadn't realized how important the meeting was and is now willing to go. Now, what should I do about this? Edit. I'd also appreciate any advice on how to handle the fact that this person lied and used religion as an excuse to avoid their responsibilities, something that could have put me in serious trouble. This is a clear breach of trust, and it's especially concerning given that they're on track for a promotion. Comments. Commenter 1. Line up someone else quickly and say, well, I appreciate it, but I already have another resource lined up. Thank you for volunteering, I am glad to know you are able to work with this client in the future. Reply, definitely using that haha. Commenter 2. Sit him down. Understand you have personal convictions. I'm going to have to go with another staff member at this time as, personally I don't want to risk compromising your beliefs. Next time something comes up we can discuss it. Commenter 3. Exactly. I provided this opportunity to other employees because I needed someone to be able to attend the meeting quickly and I felt that respecting your religious beliefs was important. I appreciate your willingness to reconsider, and I will keep that in mind for the future. It is totally okay for you to tell an employee in a professional manner that an opportunity is because of them, not for them. Then, as others have covered, document it. Stories number 22. I bought my sister's wedding dress. My sister got married 4 years ago. She had her beautiful wedding dress made by a tailor she loved. Some months ago, she told us she put it on a second-hand website to sell it because she and her husband could use the money. I knew it obviously had a huge sentimental value. She was even planning on having it shortened so that she could wear it again for their anniversary. She was selling it reluctantly, I could see tears in her eyes when she told us. What she doesn't know is I created an account on the website and bought it anonymously. I had a bonus last month and I couldn't see a better way to spend my money. I plan on taking it to the tailor who made the dress, order the changes she wanted, thankfully we're the same size, and I want to gift it back to her for their anniversary in a few months. I love my sister. I hope it makes her happy. Edit to add, some people are suggesting I don't make any changes to the dress. Thank you for your concern. However, my sister was in the process of having it shortened with her tailor anyway. But my BL had to stop working for a few months due to his health and money started getting a bit tight. That's why she had to sell it. She could no longer keep it and absolutely not pay for the changes. I've arranged with her tailor to resume the project, as per my sister's wishes before she had to sell the dress. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, save the fabric that you're cutting off. Reply, of course. I was planning on crafting a bag or another accessory to go with it. I haven't decided yet. Commenter 2, won't she notice the shipping address is to you, spoiling the surprise? Reply, I had it sent to a friend's location. Commenter 3, you're a good sibling. Commenter 4, so very sweet. You are lucky to have each other. Update. First of all, I wanted to thank everyone who commented. Your kind words really warmed my heart. Many of you asked for an update, so here it is. English is not my first language, so bear with me. A few weeks ago, we celebrated my sister and BIL's 4-year anniversary, but also the birthday of my nephew, who is now 1 year old. So, the tailor did a wonderful job with my sister's wedding dress. Once the finishing touches were added, I put it in a beautiful box with a ribbon. The day before the celebration, I gifted it to her as an early anniversary present. She was surprised that I wouldn't wait the next day. When she opened it, OMG guys, I can't describe the face that she made. She recognized it instantly since we had shortened it but left it otherwise unchanged. She had tears in her eyes as she unwrapped the paper. When she fully took it out of the box, she gasped when she realized it was shorter. Told me it was her dream to have it shortened. I said it was all thanks to her tailor. I explained to her that I had bought the dress with an account that had one of my friends' name, and had it sent to their place so she wouldn't suspect a thing. I could tell she felt torn between wanting to say it was too much of a present, and just being grateful she got to keep her wedding dress. She hugged me and we cried a bit together. She really loved the changes and the dress fits her like a glove. I'll put a picture of her in her dress in the comments, smiley face. Some context on the picture. Where I live, there's a tradition. At your wedding, your guests put things in a box, bottles of wine, photos, and memories, and the bride and groom buried the box in their garden. The box is excavated when their first child is born, so that's what they did, that's what they are doing in the picture. I thought it was fun to include. P.S. As someone suggested, I kept some of the fabric from my sister's dress to make a christening blanket for my nephew. We kept the rest and I'll craft my sister an accessory of her choosing. She hasn't decided yet. So that's it, folks. Thank you again for your kindness. I wish you all the best. Top comments. Commenter 1, I literally just came from a YouTube video where your story is mentioned, smosh. So glad it went well. What a lovely thing you did for your sister and I hope her and her husband are doing well. Commenter 2, your bond is so special. You're a good sister. Stories number 23, pretended to be gay so that 2 loudly homophobic guys would get arrested. True story that happened a few years back. Sitting at a bar, 3 beers deep with a group of heterosexual guys, I should add, friends I hadn't seen in a while. 2 guys at the table next to us start using homophobic slurs for no reason, ranting about how gay people are disgusting, etc. We couldn't let that fly and asked them if they had a problem with it, and that we were in fact homosexual ourselves. Guy 1 suddenly jumps on my friend, breaks his glasses and tips our entire table and drinks on the ground. To this day we believe they were on some kind of drug as they had a truly weird and aggressive behavior. Bartender, 6-foot-tall metal guy with a beard, arrives to the scene to hear, this guy just jumped us because we are gay. Guy 1 keeps being aggressive. Bartender immediately breaks his nose with a punch. Police arrives to the scene, bartender corroborates our story and police arrests both guys. Had to testify at the police station so that my friend would get his new glasses reimbursed. We kept the same story all night so the 2 guys got a hate crime charge. Stories number 24. Friend says that my hygiene routine is too much and that I should tell my therapist. Hey everyone, so basically I was in a bar with some other friends and we started talking about hygiene and I said that I cannot stand smelling bad, and I said my hygiene routine, I wake up, drink water and take breakfast while I leave my windows open so my room gets ventilation. Then I do my bed, I change my bed sheets every week and then I take a shower. I wash my face with special soap so I do not get acne and full wash my body really good, then I dry my body and my hair and get deodorant, cologne and sunscreen. Also I mentioned that every Sunday I do a full house cleaning, like cleaning the bins and the toilet, but some things like the dishes I do them every day. The thing is that my friend said that me changing my bed sheets every week and flossing my teeth every time I wash them is weird and unnecessary and that I must be a germaphobe. I told her that I am not and that is just basic hygiene. She then said that she saw this as a red flag and that she could not be with someone that does this and told me to talk this with my therapist. This last thing bothered me since she know I am going to a trauma because I was SA when I was 8. She also said that there is no need to change the sheets every week and that once a month is more than enough. Now I am worried. Do you guys see this as a red flag? Should I tell my therapist? Stories number 25. Aita for not letting my infertile mother-in-law be a part of my twins' birth. Okay, so this is a bit complicated, but hear me out. I, 29F, am married to my husband, 30M, and we've been trying for a baby for about 3 years. After a long, emotional journey, we finally found out that we're having twins. My husband and I were ecstatic, and we immediately started planning everything for the arrival of our little ones. Now, here's where the problem started. My mother-in-law, 46F, has been struggling with infertility for over a decade. She's openly talked about it for years, and although I sympathize with her pain, she's always been kind of aggressive about it. I've tried to support her, but there's only so much I can do. Anyway, when I announced that I was pregnant with twins, she completely lost it. She started demanding that I share my babies with her because she said she deserved to experience motherhood again in some way. She even suggested that I let her raise one of the twins or that I'd be selfish if I didn't. She said this more than once, and each time, it felt like she was crossing a line. This will be important later. As if that wasn't bad enough, my wedding was around the same time as my baby shower. I had always planned a simple ceremony with my closest friends and family, but of course, my mother-in-law had to weigh in on everything. She insisted that the dress code for my wedding should be formal and elegant, but she showed up in a white dress, clearly trying to overshadow me on my big day. When I called her out on it, she told me that white is the color of motherhood, and that I was being petty for making it about me. It felt like she was trying to steal the spotlight at every opportunity. Fast forward to my baby shower. She continued to be insistent on taking one of my twins, saying things like, "I'd be a much better mother than you, I deserve it," and "What kind of person wouldn't want to share the joy of their babies?" My husband tried to step in, but she shut him down and said it was his fault for not controlling his wife. After a heated argument, I told her I was done. She was not welcome in the hospital when I gave birth, and she wouldn't be allowed to hold my babies, ever. Now, all my friends and family are blowing up my phone, saying I was too harsh and that I should have handled it more delicately. Some even think I should apologize for not letting her be part of my children's lives in a meaningful way. So, Aita for not letting my infertile mother-in-law be a part of my twins' birth after everything she said and did? Or should I have just swallowed my pride and let her be involved? Stories number 26. Help. My husband's ex-wife moved in with us. When I met my husband 10 years ago, he had been divorced for 2 years. Lindy turned into a party girl after their divorce. Never around for the kids and very flaky. We have custody of their 2 children. Lindy was out of the picture for years, but she re-emerged and texted my husband. She says she's changed her focus in life and is getting herself together. She told my husband that she's moving to Australia to start a new job and new healthy life. A few weeks later, I come home from work and find Lindy in my house having a glass of wine. My husband took me aside and told me that Lindy will be staying in our guest room for 3 weeks. He said her lease was up and this arrangement is temporary, and it will help her to save money until she leaves for Australia. I was upset that he didn't consult me on it, but I let it go. It's now 3 months later and Lindy's job keeps getting pushed back. I don't think it ever existed. The worst part is I feel totally pushed out of my own family. My husband works from home so he is hanging around all day with his ex. I come home from work to find my husband sitting down with Lindy, and sometimes the kids, having dinner that she made, laughing at their old jokes, and having a wonderful time. Lindy also does my husband's laundry, then says, "You are so busy." I don't mind. But I do. My stepdaughter has always had a picture of her mom in her bedroom, which is fine with me, but now it's in our living room. And the last straw, I came home and found my husband in bed reading, as Lindy was organizing our closet. It's such a mess. Let me help. My skin crawls at the thought of her looking through all my things. I've spoken to my husband and he says it's cute that I'm being jealous. He also said that he's not going to put the mother of his children out on the street, nor pay for a motel. I want her out of my life and my husband and stepkids back, and my husband is doing nothing about it. I don't know how much longer I can hang on, and I'm thinking that's what she wants, to slip into my life as I slam the door behind me. Help, please. My husband's ex won't leave September 16, 2019. I was the letter writer whose husband let his ex-wife, Lindy, move into our home without telling me. Soon after I wrote to you, things in the house became even more tense. Lindy had a junkman haul my furniture away while I was at work. When I came home, there were new living room and dining room sets. The very last straw came when Lindy and my husband made family plans without me, a weekend away with the kids to visit family. I guess I'm not family. I finally stopped being a doormat. With all my financial ducks in a row, and with the help of friends, I moved out and started my new life. I am in the process of divorcing him, but here's the best part, they are no longer together. On one of our divorce discussing phone calls, my ex told me that Lindy left him for an old friend who came to town and with whom she shares a deep spiritual connection. He says they plan on opening a bead store. Now my ex is begging me to come back, saying he made a terrible mistake. No, thanks. I'll keep my dignity, and he can keep the furniture. Thanks to you and your readers for the wake-up call. Stories number 27. Aita for not telling my uncles we won't inherit anything. Before my 18M grandma passed away, she and I had an arrangement. She gave me money to buy horror novels and I read them to her twice a week. We spent a fair amount of time together. During one of our last sessions, she confided in me that she wanted to leave all her money to charities but decided to leave a college fund for my cousin, 16F, since Uncle Henry lost a massive part of his savings through gambling. The guy thought he could recover all he lost by making a big bet on Mike Tyson, but then Jake Paul won, so he ended up losing even more. Grandma asked me not to tell anyone about this and I didn't. I kept my mouth shut. When my dad and uncles found out, they reacted in different ways. Dad wasn't really that surprised since Grandma was rather charitable, especially in her later years. Uncle Henry was grateful for the fund but Uncle John was quite upset, saying that she's their mom and should have left them something. All three of them got suspicious and asked me if Grandma told me about this during one of the afternoons I spent at her place. I admitted that I knew about it and Uncle John said I should have told them first instead of letting them find out this way. That it wouldn't hurt so much if he had time to prepare instead of being caught off guard. Stories number 28. Made my racist coworker uncomfortable after he made a joke. Oh well, I, 23F, have been at my job for about a year. I'm one of the youngest in my department and one of the few women of my background. I usually ignore workplace banter, but one coworker, Steven, 34M, has a habit of making subtle comments that don't sit right with me. At first, it was small things. He'd ask where I'm really from or joke about how I must be great at handling spicy food. I never made a big deal out of it. But last week at lunch, he decides that apparently, I am lucky. They probably needed to hit their diversity quota. I'm guessing he always does this sort of thing cause everyone let out a good ol' chuckle. I almost hesitated, then I let it go and said, maybe, but it's crazy how I got promoted so fast, while you've been in the same role for like, 10 years. Maybe they have a quota for that too. I'm guessing everyone got uncomfortable cause the room went dead silent, you could hear the clock on the wall almost. Steven looked at me like a kicked dog and said that he was just joking. I didn't really care to hear it so I just smiled. Later, my manager told me Steven felt humiliated and that I should have been more professional. I said I responded the same way he spoke to me. Stories number 29. I'm planning to leave my husband and I feel so bad. This is something I haven't told anyone about but I've been planning with a friend of mine. Due to safety reasons, I have to pretend everything is fine until I get the green light from my friend to disappear. I'm absolutely miserable here with my husband and have pretty much been keeping to myself since I've started planning things with my friend. I just don't understand how my husband could go from my best friend to someone I despise and am afraid of. It all hurts tremendously. I feel so guilty about planning to leave because I never was the type to give up on him in the 6 years that I've known him. I know it's the best thing to do for myself but a huge part of me can't make peace with it no matter what. I just don't know how to navigate this. Edit. Since some people must know details, he was caught cheating while I was away on a work trip. I told him if it happened again, would want a divorce. I went to visit family 2 hours away and he got caught again. I came back to get my dog, my late mother's and grandmother's belongings and he choked me into the wall and pulled a gun on me for trying to leave him. Since then, he's been acting like nothing's happened, though he's more clingier than usual. I called my dad and brother for help and the most they've done is called to check if I was still alive, exact words from my dad last night when he called. My husband doesn't know of my friend that's helping me out. He never made an effort to get to know my friends or family any more than he had to. I thought it was because of social anxiety but who really knows. Regardless of why I know I need to leave him, I know I need to leave him. Nobody should have to deal with having a gun pulled on them by someone who promised to love and cherish them in any situation. That's why I despise him and am afraid. The meaning of this post was because, though I know I have to go for my own sake, my confidence falters very often and my emotional state takes a deep dive whenever I'm not distracting myself from it. Thank you for all the positive comments and reassurance. It helps. Thank you so much. Update, I'm planning to leave my husband and I feel so bad. Hi everyone and thanks again for the encouragement. So, this morning I woke up feeling very off. And whenever I wake up feeling off, I know something bad is bound to happen. I woke up feeling off the day my mother passed and the day my grandmother passed. Also the same when the gun incident happened. Without going into detail, messy family drama that I don't care to get into, he got an eviction notice and I knew it was my chance to go. So I packed what little I have into my car and drove to my dad's. My husband insisted that I stay until the very last minute, but I told him I didn't want to be around his family's drama and that it was already sending my anxiety into overdrive, and he surprisingly accepted that. The amount of panic and fear that I felt while I was frantically packing my car was something I never want to feel again in life. Though I'm 100% not comfortable at my dad's, it's overcrowded and uninhabitable as they are huge hoarders with a huge untrained dog. It'll have to do for now because I don't have anywhere else to go. My husband knows where I am, but I'm sure he has his hands full with his family right now, so I'm breathing a bit easier for now. I haven't had the chance to talk to my friend who's helping me out, but I'm sure she'll call as soon as she hears my message. The plan is for me to go somewhere my husband will not be able to find me and where I am protected for sure. Though I'm with my dad, I know I'm not in the clear, but I feel better, at least a little. Stories number 30. My girlfriend told me I realized how much happier I am without you. So my girlfriend, or now ex I believe, send me these two texts. I don't like you as a person and don't want to hang out or have anything to do with you, and I realized how much happier I am without you. I don't know what to do or how to respond. Hi, so I 20M have been with my GF for almost 3 years. We've basically been with each other, all day every day since we met. Being serious, we have spent every night with each other since we met, but also been seeing each other. Basically we have lived together for 3 years. Long story short, a few hours ago she sent me these. It wasn't out of the blue, but it was still very much surprising. At the moment I'm sad and I have this weird feeling inside me. Should I reply, and with what? I'm feeling lost at the moment. Stories number 31. My 28F, cousin, 30F, said I was too damaged and that nobody would want me. So I slapped her. I'll try to keep this concise. Basically I hosted a birthday party for my cousin, let's call him Tony, 67M, he is my surrogate father figure and a retired Marine. There was a lot of family present, 30+ people. I had a rough childhood. If there was a traumatic experience you could have, I've lived it. My ex ghosted me and immediately started dating someone else after 3 years together. My dad abandoned me in a cornfield when I was 5, then later in life basically stopped talking to me in favor of his new family. My late boyfriend died 4 months into our relationship when I was 23. My mom committed a crime. My grandfather used me for those kinds of pictures and my uncle covered it up when I was 10. The abuse lasted years and started after my very beloved grandmother's funeral. I, somewhat surprisingly, have never done drugs, been institutionalized, or had to have medication for a mental health issue, but some of the family, particularly my aunt, 55F, and cousin, Cheryl, 30F, who the title's about, talk about me like I am crazy. My mom, 60F, told me aunt about everything, in her version over the years, and that's tainted a lot. Cheryl has always rubbed it in that she got married at 20, had 2 kids before 25, and is now a nurse practitioner. At the birthday party I was talking to, my other cousin, Sasha, 29F, about how hard it has been to date for me because of what has happened. I am in therapy, healed as much as I can, but I never feel ready, plus I feel like I am always picked last for everything. I didn't hear Cheryl come in and I didn't know she was within earshot or I wouldn't have talked about it, but suddenly I hear her say, I don't know what's so confusing for you, of course you are picked last, you are too damaged, nobody will ever want you when they can have someone else who isn't, to be brutally honest. I saw red, and it was sort of like I watched a movie of myself turn around and backhand her. Sasha actually started laughing, Cheryl was pissed and started screaming, hurling insults. I told her to get out of my house, she didn't until Tony came and said, don't make me drag you. Basically Sasha, Tony, and my other cousins, 24F and 26M, are on my side, but the rest of the family got Cheryl's version that I went psycho and randomly slapped her. I do feel bad about it, more so because my ring cut her. But I also feel like Cheryl has always been a bully and this is a long time coming. Aita. Stories number 32. Aita for attending my sister's birth and meeting baby before my parents. My 35F little sister, 31F, gave birth to her second child late December 24. She asked me to be her second birth partner to support her and her husband, and I was stoked to agree. Mom thought it was great too. Some background on my parents: 65F, 71M. Mom loves to play the victim. We used to be close, but I don't like playing her therapist anymore. My dad was a workaholic with zero emotional regulation and quick to anger. Jump to December. It was the most amazing and emotional experience to help my sis, and she has a calm, natural birth. They made baby's middle name my first name, total honor. I tried leaving to avoid overstaying, but my sister wanted me to stay at the hospital overnight to help her while her husband went back home to their toddler, so I did. It was super special caring for her. In the lead up, my sis told my parents she's not sure if she wants them visiting the hospital or when they first get home. She also sets that "don't come if you're sick" and "no kissing baby" rule. They're miffed. Next morning, Mom messages me and invites her and Dad to have a coffee at the hospital. I say I'll come to our family home, but she says no because they are in the middle of packing to move to their property 3 hours away when we meet. My dad is coughing sick and he goes, "So we are going up to meet the baby now?" I say no, that's not the plan, and you can't meet baby if you are sick. Dad starts yelling in the middle of the hospital cafe saying yes he can because baby already has an immunity from my sister and heaps of babies are born in disgusting conditions around the world. He then accuses me of subterfuge for being at the birth. He won't stop yelling and demanding to go up to the ward. I tell him he doesn't have my sister's permission and she needs to know he's unwell. My mom is all, "I told you not to say anything." Dad keeps escalating. I tell Dad I'd rather he be NC with me than I go against my sister's boundaries when she's so vulnerable after birth. He carries on about my conniving subterfuge and manipulation, I think, for not saying I was at the birth. I then told Dad that my sister asked me 6 months ago, sis had told Mom multiple times since, and sis told Mom yesterday I was on my way. Dad looked confused and Mom says, "I must have forgot." I went back to the ward without them, warned my sister, said goodbye and made a hasty exit to drive back home, crying the whole way. My sis ended up letting my parents come into the ward though Dad wasn't allowed near the baby. I then find out they drove back to their property the next day. So it was zero about supporting my sister and her husband. I haven't spoken to my parents since. Aita. TLDR, I was my sister's birth partner, my boomer parents lost their shit and accused me of deceit and subterfuge. Stories number 33. Wife cheated. First post, so sorry. Last Friday, wife of 16 years let me know she cheated one time during this last summer. I've been sleeping in guest bedroom trying to figure out next steps. She's been giving me space, but periodically goes into everything is normal mode. She wants to go on a date tomorrow, 7 days after her telling me, "I don't want to go, but I feel guilty." She wants to stay together and I'm not sure. Actually I don't, but feel guilty about that. She's very flirty and often inappropriate with men, especially when drinking, even around me. Can't imagine how she is when I'm not around. She was texting at least 2 men over the summer as well. She's acting really remorseful, but I don't know if she wants to stay in relationship for the wrong reasons. Plus, I'm embarrassed if I stay in. Kids aren't a worry. I think she wanting to stay is about financial, not being alone, unless she finds someone else to be that long-term guy. I don't know why I feel guilty. I'm definitely angry and numb. Any advice would be appreciated, please. Stories number 34. The day I stopped trying to find my passion and started noticing my patterns. Spent years obsessing over finding my passion. You know, that one thing I was meant to do. That perfect career that would make everything click. Made endless lists. Took every personality test. Asked successful people about their journeys. Still felt lost. Then last week, procrastinating on LinkedIn, I started looking at my browser history instead. Noticed something weird. The random stuff I did when I wasn't trying to be productive actually had a pattern. Always explaining things to people. Always breaking down complex ideas. Always drawn to teaching moments, even in my gaming groups. Wasn't about finding some grand passion. It was about noticing what I naturally drift towards when nobody's watching. Started looking at my wasted time differently. Those hours helping friends with projects. The Reddit posts I enjoy writing. The parts of my current job I look forward to. Turns out your path isn't always about what you love, it's about what you do when you forget to watch yourself. Stories number 35. Parents are upset that I made use of a first-time home buyers program. I'm a female in my early 30s, just bought my first home, a tiny little 600 square feet home that was completely renovated by house flippers in 2018. It's nothing fancy, but it's also not falling apart. I was only able to afford this through a first-time home buyers program in my state that granted me $15,000 towards the down payment. I told my parents and they are excited, but they were also very upset learning a program like that exists. My mom asked why the state can't lower taxes so my parents could afford to provide me that money. But my parents also promised to buy me a couch when I moved out because I had a small couch stored in the basement that they threw out because it was taking up space. Now my mom is complaining that couches are too expensive and they will find a free one second hand for me instead. She said they don't have the money. At the same time they are paying to stay in a Hilton hotel 5 hours away to go look at a 26-acre property to buy. They already own a second home in Pennsylvania but they don't want to retire into it because it's too far away from a good fishing lake. They also just dropped $500 going to some fancy restaurant with friends in NYC. It's just very frustrating hearing them say things like that then turning around and being upset that some of their tax money is going to helping people like me buy their first house while refusing to even give me $600 towards a couch. Literally found a new $600 couch at a discount store near them and that's too expensive. My dad makes 10 times more yearly than I do and my mom hasn't worked since she got pregnant with me. But spending $500 on a single meal is acceptable but not an extra $100 on something that would get used every day. The older I've gotten the more I've realized they are selfish but they see their selfishness as reasonable and logical while refusing to acknowledge how bad their spending habits are. And for the record, I'm okay even not getting any couch or a free couch. It's more so that they are refusing $600 while saying if taxes were lower they could have given me $15,000. I know in my heart that is just completely false. That tax break would just go towards my dad's third boat, or sixth set of golf clubs, or a fourth high-end camera for my mom, or some other thousands of dollar luxury purchased towards expensive habits. While they tell me I shouldn't have used the program and it's corruption and awful that something like that exists. Stories number 36. I, 20F, was hospitalized but my boyfriend, 21M, has barely visited. My boyfriend and I have been together for over 3 years. 2 weeks ago I experienced cardiac arrest out of nowhere and was hospitalized. I was intubated and unconscious for a few days. My boyfriend visited me only on the day I was hospitalized. A week into my hospitalization, I gained consciousness and slowly started to function normally again. Once I was able to, I texted him because he was all I thought about and I thought he might be worried sick about me. I noticed he had texted me once every day since my hospitalization saying how he missed me or hoped I was okay. He came to visit me the day after I texted him for the first time. He told me he had gone out with friends and family and had just been living life while I was here. I'm still hospitalized, 2 weeks now, and he only came twice. But he lives 10 to 15 minutes away from the hospital. And he didn't even keep tabs on me by asking my family or friends how I was doing after coming that first time. I just wonder if he truly loves me because if it was the other way around I would try to be there every day and wouldn't be able to function normally knowing he could have died or was in a state like that. It's making me rethink my relationship and if I should stay with someone who doesn't seem too fazed over me possibly dying or being here for me during such a hard time for me. I don't even think he even cried once for me. What do you guys think? Am I maybe expecting too much or is he just not doing everything he can? Stories number 37. My boyfriend slapped me 5 times after he drunk. We had arguments on New Year and he sit on me slapped me 5 times because I said, if you don't treat me well there are other guys who will. That triggered him. Then he kept saying if I didn't say that it wouldn't happen and I said no matter what you shouldn't raise your hand on me, lead to another argument and he said let's break up and left me in the house whole night. The second day he came back crying said it was all his ego. I felt soft for him. Then the second day he went to work no call no text nothing maybe he was rethinking everything, but when he got home I asked why he didn't contact me and somehow lead to another argument. He said pack your stuff if you want to leave, leave then. So I left. We kept in touch during this period but on and off. He was asking me to come back and I said give me some times and I am not going back alone you have to come get me. He said sure, but I just felt something was off so I said I still need time to think. After couple days he asked me when I am coming back I said I don't know then he blocked me everywhere. He has very bad childhood his parents passed away when he was very young and he got adopted I think he never felt safe in argument in his whole life he always worry that he will lose something from it. I don't know what to do I want to fix it because I date him for marriage but this shit is actually scary even he doesn't raise his hands anymore what if he still left me alone after argument with no efforts given. He treat me so well while we don't argue. He said let's not argue anymore but I don't think relationships will not have any argument. Maybe I should move on but I still have this soft spot for him lol I am dumb AF. Stories number 38. Aita if I would press charges against my husband for cheating even though he saved me from my deathbed. I have been married to my husband for 10 years. Our marriage hasn't been perfect but I always believed we were in it together until recently. A few years ago, I went through the worst time of my life. I was battling a severe illness and there was a point where doctors weren't sure I'd make it. He was my rock. He drained his savings, took time off work, and even fought with insurance companies to get me the best care possible. Thanks to him, and some medical miracles, I pulled through. I always felt like I owed him my life. I never took his sacrifices for granted. I did everything I could to make sure he knew how much I loved and appreciated him. But last week, I found out he had been cheating on me for over a month with a woman from his gym. When I confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he said something that shattered me: "I gave you everything when you were at your lowest. I put my life on hold for you. Don't I deserve to be happy too?" I was stunned. He acted like his sacrifices were a down payment on my loyalty, like I should just accept the betrayal as part of some unspoken trade-off. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Because of the way our finances are set up, he technically committed financial infidelity too. He had been using our joint account, which was originally meant for my medical expenses, to fund gifts and expensive dinners with her. Legally, I have grounds to press charges for marital fraud. I told him I was considering it and he lost it. He accused me of being ungrateful and vengeful, saying that without him, I wouldn't even be here to have this argument. He thinks I should just divorce him and move on instead of ruining his life over one mistake. Some say he deserves consequences for what he did. Others think I'd be heartless to take legal action against the man who saved me when I was at my lowest. So will I be the asshole if I went through with pressing charges? Stories number 39. My 33M girlfriend, 35F, asks for expensive gifts and believes they're a sign of commitment. My girlfriend, 35F, and I, 33M, are both Italians living in the UK. She's been here for 6 years, while I've been here for 2 years. She comes from a wealthy family, graduated from a good college, and has a good career in IT. She's attractive, smart, caring, and a very traditional person. On the other hand, I come from a poor family, work in IT, earn well, a little attractive and interesting person. We have been together for about 4 months so far. Since she's a traditional person, she doesn't want to have sex before marriage. I respect that. She also feels like rushing into marriage. However, I had to slow it down a bit to get to know each other better. I'm paying for all fancy dinner occasions, concerts, flowers, and things like that. I don't have too much of a problem with it since I earn well and can afford those things. This week she sent me a screenshot of jewelry and asked me to buy it in an indirect way. I said it's super expensive, half of my monthly net salary. She said that I'm not buying her gifts and she wants to wear something that I bought. I said, okay, understood, and decided to talk about that later. I looked at some stores to find something similar and bought something much cheaper. I gave it to her at dinner. She acted like she liked it, but I can tell she was acting a bit. I wanted to talk about her request for an expensive gift. It bugged me a lot, so I said, we need to talk and make sure that our expectations of each other are aligned. I want to make sure you understand I won't purchase very expensive gifts. Maybe I was a little rude. She stuttered a lot and said things like, it's weird. At that point, I got a little bit pissed and said, it's not normal for somebody to ask for very expensive gifts from each other. She said, if a man cares about his girlfriend, he would buy what she wants. This is how you show your commitment. I got angry at that point and told her, so it's not valuable that I went to stores to find something similar to what you wanted? But if I was a rich person and ordered what you wanted from the internet, I would be the best. We argued about it. She said she wanted to give it back to me. I said, yes please, you clearly don't deserve the emotional effort of it, it's worthless because it's not expensive. She said it's not about being rich and that I'm earning well. I said, I might be earning well now, but I have no family who backs me. I'm on my own. I have to save money to buy a house, car, or in case I get fired. I can't purchase a necklace with the half of my salary. Honestly, it felt like my inner child was talking and not my mature self. We argued for an hour. We both went too far. I told her that I'm paying for everything and I still feel that I'm not appreciated for that and it looks like my duty. She told me that she appreciates it but she wants gifts as well. She was crying and telling me that she feels worthless. I was telling her that her worth can't be determined by the price of gifts. At some point, I decided to leave. She told me, please sit, I really want to sort this out. I couldn't leave because I love her. I wanted to sort it out as well. We argued a bit more and she told me, okay, at least tell me that if you have the money in the future, you would buy me what I want. I said yes. She told me that I need to take her to a jewelry store and buy her something that she can wear. I told her again, I can't buy you very expensive gifts. She told me that it doesn't have to be very expensive and she knows that I'm earning well. I told her, I know that you are a smart person. I know that you are a caring person. I don't understand why you have this mindset from the 60s. She told me that for her, buying gifts is an act of commitment. I said okay. I thought maybe her father showed his love by buying expensive gifts and this is what she learned about love. We closed the night in a positive way. But today I woke up with a terrible feeling. I feel that I'm not accepted as who I am. But maybe I'm exaggerating the situation because of my childhood traumas. I'm afraid that I might be ignoring obvious red flags. My emotions are all over the place and can't think straight. Need a look from the outside. TLDR, my rich girlfriend asks for expensive gifts and believes they're a sign of commitment. I don't want to buy these things because I need to save money for our future. Stories number 40. I used to reprice steaks at my work when I was younger. When I was 18 I worked at a Piggly Wiggly grocery store. After the meat department guys went home at like 3 p.m. it was part of my job to restock meat on the sales floor throughout the night. At the time my mom worked nights and my stepdad would always be passed out drunk when I got home, so there would never be dinner for my brother and me. I'd always bring him home whatever he wanted, usually junk food like Hot Pockets, chips, etc., and I went through a huge steak phase. My family was kind of poor so we almost never got steak, it felt fancy to me. So I would go find the thickest steak we had in a cooler and change the sticker price, so instead of being like $11.99 lb it was $1.99 lb, making it exponentially cheaper. I did this probably twice a week for over a year and was never caught. Stories number 41. Hate the way women are told to pick better, but give men a chance at the same time. Really sick of seeing men complain about the audacity of women to have standards and blame women for their loneliness, which is really just code for not getting date sex as much as they'd like. But if women end up in awful situations due to their male partner's treatment behavior, they are blamed for not choosing better. We are also judged for things like body count, but then men get upset when a woman doesn't want to sleep with them after 1 or 2 dates. I'm just so tired of all the complaining with zero introspection and zero empathy for women's experience. Maybe if men thought about what it felt like to be on the other side of interacting with them, they'd stop the constant beratement. It's just so frustrating being constantly projected onto and made into a caricature as justification for a self-centered narrative. They don't see it because they don't want to. It's easier to blame women than give up the entitlement. Stories number 42. Found out my ex actually paid his child support. The last check I recorded from my ex for child support was back in 2017 and it was for $15. I never actually cared about the child support as I had been doing everything on my own since day one, but it would have been nice. My ex owed $15,000 plus in back support. I ended up moving out of state when my child was 2 and he was able to get his support reduced to 0 and owed 1.00 a week towards back support. I would get these statements in the mail every once in a while that showed what he owed and what he paid. I noticed the last one the amount had dropped drastically and thought it was weird but didn't really think much of it because I honestly force anything that has to do with my ex out of my brain as soon as possible. Well, I got another one today and saw the amount again and wondered what was up with that, so I called them. Turns out my ex paid $12,000 in 2022 or 2023 and they had sent the child support card to an old address, so I never received it. Thankfully I was able to contact someone and get it corrected and I'll be receiving the card by next week. It has over $12,800 on it. My ex hasn't had any contact with my child and had only seen them 8 times in the first 18 months of their life, and we moved after they turned 2. My child has no idea who he is and has someone else to call dad who wants to be that for them. But you bet your ass my baby's gonna get a whole new wardrobe next week. Edit. Holy crap on a cracker, this blew up. It was just a pointless story. I'm not going to be spending all the money on clothes, you morons. Yes, I'm going to save the majority of it. Thanks to those with good suggestions of where I can put the money for savings, I will look into those. But for real, I'm not spending it all on a wardrobe, so chill the fuck out, and I'm not spending it on myself. As for those defending my ex and crying that I'm keeping my child away from him. My last contact with him was 2019 when he called to ask about terminating his rights. Does that sound like someone interested in seeing their child or having any kind of relationship with them? I have not blocked him from anything and he hasn't reached out at all, especially since paying the money. Stories number 43. Aita for telling my best friend to shut up when she crossed the line while making fun of me after I told her I cried after losing my virginity. I'm gonna try to keep this as short and sweet as I can because I just need to know if I really fucked up. For backstory, I, 21F, have a best friend Ollie, 21F, and we've been best friends since 9th grade. We're complete open books with each other, and we've, until now, never judged. I always wanted her to feel safe to talk to me about anything, and I hoped she felt the same about me. We both go to the same uni and room together. So, around 8 almost 9 months ago, we had been friends since I started uni. I got together with my girlfriend Freddie, 22F, and she's been my first love. It's been so incredible being with her, she is such an angel that just gets me on every single level. Big oversharing time, but losing my virginity has always been something that really scared me, in the sense of trusting someone with my body like that. No trauma or anything, just scared, but I finally got there with Freddie a few nights ago. She was so loving, and after we were done I just cried out happy tears. I was so just ecstatic that I got to do that with someone I love so much, and Freddie just hugged me tight and was so kind about it. I told Ollie about this the day after, and since then she keeps making jokes about me being a big cry baby, and will just mock cry at me randomly when we see each other. I just rolled my eyes at her and tried to just bear it, because no way was I letting her ruin that experience for me. Last night we were at a party together and she absolutely crossed the line. First, she was just making wah-wah noises at me, but then she made a gross joke about Freddie having a thing for crying. I just yelled at her to shut up because I'm so fucking sick of it. It's just not funny. She looked all shocked and I just called Freddie and asked her to pick me up. I've been at her apartment off campus since, and Ollie and some of our friends that witnessed it are getting upset with me and telling me to stop being so sensitive. I haven't answered any texts yet, and Freddie's telling me I did nothing wrong with removing myself from the situation, but I'm still so conflicted. Stories number 44. Aita for being upset with my boyfriend for not disciplining his son for making a racist slur. I, 25F, am a black woman, and my boyfriend, 46M, and his son, 14M, are both white. For the past year, my boyfriend's son has been making racist jokes, including using the N-word, asking people to rearrange letters to spell it and singing racist anthems, and making jokes about black people. Just last weekend, we were playing an online game where he chose usernames like Hitler and Forthages. This was completely unprompted, and my boyfriend didn't correct him. I don't feel comfortable addressing this directly with the kid, so I asked my boyfriend to talk to him. My boyfriend admitted he knows his son makes these jokes but never had the conversation I asked him to have. Fast forward to earlier this week, the son came home saying that another kid in class had said, "White people are the supreme race." My boyfriend didn't believe him because it sounded like something his son would say instead. Sure enough, the next day, my boyfriend got a call from the school saying his son was the one who made the comment. He was suspended for 7 days. When my boyfriend confronted his son, all he said was, "So you lied to me?" Referring to the fact that the boy initially blamed another student. That was the extent of the conversation. Later, when his other son came over, my boyfriend explained why his brother was suspended and downplayed it, saying it was his first offense. He also compared it to fighting, asking me if I thought racial slurs were worse than physical fights. I told him I thought they were at least on par, but he dismissed me, saying fighting only gets a 2-day suspension compared to the 7 days his son received for his comment. When he picked up his kids from school, my boyfriend asked them what they wanted for dinner like nothing had happened. His other son then asked, "Don't you know what he did? Aren't you mad?" My boyfriend's response was, "Honestly, I'm more upset that he lied to me." Later, when I asked my boyfriend what punishment he planned to give his son beyond the suspension, he told me the suspension was enough because his son already knows what he did was wrong. He also told me he's not going to make his son stop making these jokes because it's his sense of humor, and people are just taking it out of context. I feel like he's completely brushing this off. Am I overreacting, or is this a red flag for our relationship? I'm starting to question if this is something I can overlook. TLDR, my boyfriend's son was suspended for making a racist comment. My boyfriend downplayed it, compared it to fighting, and said his son's racist jokes are just his sense of humor. He refuses to discipline him further or have a real conversation about it. Am I right to be upset? Stories number 45. My name is China and I'm Chinese. Yeah, that's right. I'm Chinese named after my race. I was born in China, adopted, and an immigrant at 5 months. My family is white, they named me after my race to be unique. I find my name a great conversation starter, and yeah, it is unique and no one forgets me. I know nothing about China or Chinese culture outside media portrayal, Midwestern raised and all my friends are white. Yet here I am, I'm an immigrant. Today my mother told me, all immigrants should be deported, whether legal or not, they weren't born here. Don't you agree? I just stared at her, and she huffed and said, "I'm not meaning you, you're a citizen." She scowled and walked off. Don't you realize your one and only child is an immigrant? Citizens can be immigrants, aren't you supposed to be the adult? My chest feels like a cold dark ocean, where I'm calling out to nothing but the sound of crashing waves that swallow my voice. Something inside me broke today and I feel so isolated, maybe trapped. Edit. Thanks for everything y'all, I really needed the support. I'm just so frustrated right now because ending up back at my parents' was the last thing in my to-do list. For everyone saying go no contact, I have 2 jobs right now so I can have a good excuse to not be home. But yes, I plan on it. I'm trying to save up as quickly as possible, putting in as much into my savings, so I'm living poor now to invest later. Hopefully I can afford to buy a new car, get papers done to change my name, and be able to get a nice apartment and furnish it. I will save a good chunk to build a new life and eventually find a career I can comfortably live with one day. And to everyone trying to stand up for me in the comments, I appreciate it. Honestly, I don't really care what others think because there's more support than hate, and I just really needed the comfort. Trust me, ignoring people is my talent as an introvert. But they have a right to be suspicious. It really is a wild story, however, that is why I rant online. If I tell anyone in real about it, they just don't get it or they don't really believe it. So for me it's easier to rant online to people I don't have to see at work, around town, or anyone I build a relationship with. Y'all have been so helpful, and I want you all to know that I read every comment when I got off work today and I cried because after reading lots of stories I know I'm not alone. I hope you all have a good night and that every single one of your pillows is cold, squishy, and comfy tonight. Stories number 46. Thinking about not attending my brother's wedding because of his fiancée's prank on my husband. I am 25F, my husband is 30M. My brother 32M and his fiancée 31F recently came to visit us in our city. My partner and I are new homeowners and they were staying with us for the first time. My brother's fiancée loves Halloween. She is also a Disney adult and has a childlike side to her which comes out sometimes. She's just super involved, absorbed, when it comes to her interests. Anyway, I'm just sharing this for context because my perspective is that she often gets carried away, and I genuinely feel what I am going to describe was the result of one of those moments where she just took it too far and suffered some negative consequences. She is however taking it as a very personal attack. So we disagree and the disagreement resulted in my husband cutting their visit short, aka they were asked to leave. 31F has made comments more than few times now since meeting him that my husband gives off a dark vibe. She is always comparing him to characters from various books she reads. It's not necessarily criticism, she always explains that they are compliments. Well, I'm not sure anymore. Her reasons for these comparisons are based on his looks, the general vibe he gives off, and his tattoo. He only has one, but it's on his hand. During this recent visit, she mentioned she would love to see someone like him get scared because she can't imagine him getting startled, or letting out a scream. Scaring him became her goal during her stay with us. None of us knew about it, not even my brother. The incident causing all the trouble is that she tried to jump scare my husband in the garage. It was dark and she ambushed him in the garage while wearing a full outfit and mask when he was returning from a run. Well, he didn't let out the scream she wanted. He instinctively reacted by shoving her against the wall. She hit her head and was quite shaken up. Luckily, he realized very quickly by the sound she made that it likely wasn't an intruder. He switched the lights on and pulled her mask off. He told me he was very confused in the moment. Why would she attack him? My husband helped her inside, apologized, made her tea and then called me. I was out with my brother. When we got home I asked 31F if she was okay and I said her prank was stupid to do because she could have gotten seriously hurt. I don't know if it was what I said that bothered her or if she was just waiting for her partner to come home, but she launched into crying about how my husband used an excessive amount of force knowing it was most likely her just doing a harmless prank. In a nutshell. My husband asked her straightforwardly, "Are you implying I intentionally assaulted you?" She hesitated but chose to say, "Yes," and my husband responded to that with, "Get out of my house." I tried to smooth it but my husband was adamant if that's what she genuinely believes, she's not welcome to stay. 31F chose to stick to her accusation. I decided to side with my husband. My brother is angry with me. He thinks I should have tried to do damage control and let them stay by convincing my husband to lean more into apologizing and placating his fiancée who was just recovering from the situation. He thinks this whole thing would have blown over if I'd helped my husband fold. I find this unfair. My brother was counting on me to handle all this, yet he didn't speak up during the conversation or try to talk sense into his fiancée. My husband remained calm the entire time, but he obviously felt insulted by her remarks and I think that's valid. Why should I have taken my brother's fiancée's side over my own husband, especially when I feel like she was wrong for doing all that, then turning around and accusing my husband of wanting to hurt her? My brother says I was short-sighted and should think of their upcoming wedding, but I think he is the one who needs to get his fiancée to apologize to my husband. Editing to add the text below, in an attempt to answer some things that are getting lost in comments. I would like to clarify, when I meant I tried to smooth the situation, I was not taking 31F's side or doubting my husband in any way. I simply tried to get everyone to consider tabling this until emotions had cooled down, and by those emotions, I mean the hysterics of my brother's fiancée. My husband was calm throughout, although there was an obvious finality about his decision. He made his statement and disengaged. As mentioned, my brother looked to me hoping I'd persuade my husband, but I didn't, so they had to leave. The costume. I mentioned in a comment that I didn't get an opportunity to ask that night if she bought an outfit specifically for this prank or if it was my brother's Halloween costume. They go to adult Halloween parties, and we're attending one this weekend 2 hours from where we live. It was part of my brother's costume, a mask, like a golden masquerade one but more coverage. It reminded me of the gold-jeweled animal masks from Squid Game, or something you'd wear to a Rothschild party in the 70s, and she had on a long robe cloak with a hood. People asked me to update, I will do that. Please look at my comments too in case I already answered a question you might have, but I think these two were the ones I saw pop up the most. I'm sorry I can't keep up with all the comments. I really tried. I will be showing this thread to my brother. Pre-wedding update, thinking about not attending my brother's wedding because of his fiancée's prank on my husband. I got a lot of messages requesting an update. I have never made one before, so I hope I am going about this correctly. To recap my previous post, my 25F brother's fiancée, 31F, decided to jump scare my husband, 30M, in our dark garage because she wanted to get a reaction from him and possibly hear him scream. As ridiculous as it sounds, this is the only motive we have been able to get out of her. My husband responded to her jump scare by instinctively shoving her against the wall. Luckily for her, he heard her voice and recognized that it wasn't an intruder. He apologized to her in that moment, helped her inside, and calmed her down. He told me he was gentle and understanding, but once she was seated and started to calm down, he made it very clear to her that her actions were reckless and could have led to serious harm. It's my personal opinion that she didn't like the change in his demeanor and being told off because it meant she was no longer the victim, but the transgressor. In a shitty attempt to get herself out of the hot seat, she decided to accuse my husband of using excessive force, implying that he intentionally assaulted her, even though she was the one who initiated the whole situation. This led to an emotional reaction from my brother, and heightened the tension between him and my husband. My husband was zero tolerance about the theatrics, FSIL and hysterics, and my brother getting riled up about it. He kicked them both out. Update. I tried to talk to my brother multiple times after the incident, but each attempt ended in silence because I refused to give in to his demands. He wanted my husband and me to apologize to his fiancée, starting with me downplaying the whole situation so she wouldn't feel bad about her prank. I hesitated to send him the Reddit post I'd made. Initially, I thought it might work against us to make things worse. But his total inability to reason with me or see the situation for what it was became beyond frustrating. Since I couldn't physically deliver a cold hard slap to his face for asking me to be complacent in allowing my husband to be falsely accused of assault, I figured the next best thing would be for him to read all your comments. Following the advice I got here, I tried to get ahead of the situation by informing my parents. My dad, a reasonable and practical man, immediately sided with my husband. His comments were similar to what a lot of people here had said, focusing on how dangerous and reckless the prank was and the ramifications of being falsely accused of assault. My mom, who unfortunately has always favored my brother, suggested we at least hear her out, referring to my brother's fiancée. As livid as I was about her reaction, I wasn't surprised by it. My dad did try to shut down her skepticism, but she remained on my brother's side for a few days, until I showed them footage from my brother's Tesla, which he had tried to delete. The Sentry thing, sorry if I'm using the terminology incorrectly, I'm not a Tesla owner, recorded part of the interaction in the garage, not the jump scare itself. But the aftermath, which IMO was more crucial. My husband's account was confirmed. He used a measured amount of force to immobilize her and was prepared to escalate if necessary, which is beyond generous for someone to do in a situation like that, and definitely not owed. Many of you speculated that she might have a fixation or even a crush on my husband, and I'm starting to reconsider some past interactions with that in mind. I also misunderstood what dark books she expressed she enjoyed, and compared my fiancé to. I learned from comments here that they are actually a subtype of the romance genre. I didn't know she was comparing him to characters in romance novels because one of the characters I recall her comparing my husband to was from a book about dragons. I genuinely wish I still remembered the names of various characters she's mentioned over the months so I could satisfy my own curiosity, but my brain glossed over the names during conversations. We have a group chat for the wedding, which includes my brother, my parents, my brother's fiancée, and her parents. In that chat, I addressed the incident but didn't share the Tesla footage, only mentioned that it exists. Her parents didn't respond in the chat, though I know they saw the message. Later, her mom called mine. Apparently, they had no idea about the prank. It's hard to say whether they believe me or if they've taken their daughter's side after speaking with her. My brother's fiancée, and my brother, have both extended apologies to my husband, and have requested our presence at their upcoming wedding. My parents, trying to keep the peace, have encouraged us to go, saying it's the honorable thing to do. So, for the sake of family formality, we've decided to attend. However, my husband has made it clear that we'll be there out of obligation. We will be keeping a distance from them going forward. We haven't explicitly stated it, but there will be no future invitations to our home, not even for the holiday dinner we had planned before all this happened. My husband is going to minimize all future interaction with my brother's fiancée. I don't think we'll ever trust her again. I'll try to spend some one-on-one time with my brother to gauge where we stand. Our relationship feels strained, and this incident has made me realize that I lost him to her long before this happened, something I hadn't fully recognized until now. Thanks to everyone for sharing your opinions. A reporter from a news outlet reached out to me, and I remember requesting that if anyone uses my story, I would like them to pass on the following sentiment. I hope that if you share my story, you can help highlight the dangers of ambush-style pranks. These types of pranks create a threatening environment and put everyone involved at risk of serious harm or injury. They are stupid and dangerous. No one should have to feel threatened or be put in a position where their safety is compromised for the sake of a prank. If that's the setup, then it's not a prank. Actions like these will always have consequences, some of which may be irreparable, and no prank is worth the risk of someone getting hurt. Editing to add a little footnote. I understand people get curious and invested, but please consider this my final update. If necessary, I will update again in the future, but it will be unlikely and I assure you it won't be anytime soon. I got a lot of DMs requesting updates on the previous post, so I thought I'd place this disclaimer here. And another edit to fix the formatting. I wrote this post in my notes app first, which was a dodo move apparently. Sorry, I suck at this. Final update, thinking about not attending my brother's wedding because of his fiancée's prank on my husband. I still get the odd message or notification on this account, which is surprising to me. I always feel bad because I can't feed the interest with a truly juicy update. TLDR, my brother and his partner got married, she is pregnant and we are no contact. This is the last one from me, guys. I did read, or try to read, some of the books I got recommended that would show me what my husband is being compared to. I mostly did this for entertainment purposes. I think some fans of these books will get mad, but I'll just be honest, these books are not for me. I got up to book 3 in a Kotar, although my skimming increased with each book. I made it through a little bit of the 4th one, and that's when my brain just couldn't take any more. I think my husband was supposed to be Reese, and after reading 3 + 1 2-ish books I don't quite see it. I found both Reese and Fair increasingly annoying as the books went on. I just DNF, they're not my people. If I had to pick, Osriel seemed a little more like my husband maybe. Based on just loose vibes that I got. I also read Fourth Wing, just the one book, and I won't be reading the rest of the series. I think my husband was supposed to be Xaden. He's actually more of a Liam personality-wise. These were the main 2 books. Anyway, the actual update. My brother and his fiancée got married. She was pregnant. My mom had already suspected apparently, but the pregnancy was announced during the wedding. The pregnancy has made my parents kind of soften. My mom is distracted about becoming a grandma. It hasn't changed how I feel. I still think it's a mistake that he's marrying her, and I'm worried about him, but I also don't have any intense feelings. It's his life. My husband didn't have to attend the wedding, we all said he could skip it, but he wanted to accompany me. Nothing dramatic happened at the wedding. We did keep at a bit of a distance, so maybe we missed any drama if there was some. I did learn something disturbing from someone who has spent more time with my brother's wife. She had apparently made some disgusting comments about my husband in the past. She had said he looks like a Lezen Comics character. It feels nasty to direct quote her, so I will just paraphrase. She basically implied he is so SA-able and or would be doing the SA or something. I don't know if any of this has to do with the context of these types of comics. This was all apparently said in a WhatsApp chat, but no proof of the conversation because the person who told me said she got a new phone and didn't back up her WhatsApp. I don't have any reason to believe she would make this up though. I didn't confront my brother's wife about this comment because it was said a long time ago and it just doesn't seem worth bringing up. We have just continued our no contact. Like I said, pretty boring update. But it's truly my final one now that the wedding is over. Stories number 47. Aita for telling my mom not to sing HBD to my aunt at my baby shower. My baby shower is today and I was just told last night my aunt will be visiting for a few days from a different state and today is her birthday. Previous to last night I was unaware of her birthday or her even coming, then I was told my mother bought her a cake and plan on having everyone sing happy birthday at my shower. My issue is that there will be multiple strangers who have no clue who she is that will be forced to awkwardly sing to her, and they couldn't wait for another day. She is going to be here for a few days, so I'm confused why they couldn't simply take her to dinner after the event or a different day. When I expressed my concern my family implied I'm being selfish and then proceeded to say I have no choice as I didn't pay for the shower. This is my first child and my family has made it clear this will be my one and only baby shower. So Aita for asking that this one event, not even the entire day just the event, to be about me only. Edit. To everyone saying I should be happy to share this with my aunt because she came for me, I never said she came for me or for this shower. She just happens to be here and it would be a different situation if I were closer to this aunt, but as previously mentioned I'm distant enough to have not even known it was her birthday. Also when this Tia was originally told about my pregnancy she was insanely negative and criticizing telling me to possibly abort. Stories number 48. Where are you on trans women just trying to use the restroom and not make a fuss? Could use your perspective, because it feels like everything's changed. Hopefully, I'm okay to post this as an in-process trans woman. The speed at which the Trump administration and tech brothers are moving to change public opinion around trans people is terrifying. I picked the wrong year to finally understand that my brain has been telling me I'm trans for 40 years, I can't tell whether support is shifting, or whether the assholes just have larger mics. I've been on HRT for 6 months, this early in my journey, I don't really pass. I make every effort to blend in and not make waves. I maybe don't look terrible, and HRT has started to do crazy things, but my goal is to just not make people uncomfortable. I've gone to concerts, malls, errands, hikes, all in, new meat mode and not a soul has said anything unkind. In fact, have gotten more sweet compliments in the past 6 months than I did over a decade in my old life. But I've drawn the line at restrooms. I've just adapted to avoiding a lot of liquid while I'm out or not straying too far from home. It's obviously not a permanent way to live. I'm terrified of two things: making women feel uncomfortable or unsafe, like I'm somehow getting off on being in the last place I prefer to be, or that I'll encounter that one person who wants to make a scene and confronts me with a camera. So, my question to women out there, how are you feeling about people like me? Are the efforts to turn women's support against trans women starting to stick? Do you sense a change in how other women see us? Are there still good people out there who have our back? How do you feel about trans women in restrooms, those of us just wanting to get in and out? I'm terrified that it feels like MAGA's full court press is having an impact. I'm at the point where it'd be tough to go back to dude mode, even if I wanted to. So the only way is forward. As much as I yearn to be my authentic self, it'd be a nice bonus if I could be my hydrated authentic self. Thoughts appreciated. Edit. Y'all, can't express enough thanks for your thoughts. Thank you for the reassurance, the commiserating, the reminder that so many people are getting the bad end of the stick right now. Will do all I can to pay it forward. It burns me that so many of you with less traditional body shapes, hairstyles or clothing choices are feeling even less safe in a space that belongs to you. It's an awful thing to hope, but maybe if enough conservative cis women start getting transvestigated, insert Spider-Man pointing meme, there'll be pushback against this lunacy and people can just mind their own business and pee like people have for so many years before this. Stories number 49. Am I the asshole for wanting my boyfriend to end his friendship with one of his best girlfriends of 14 years? Advice needed. Me 30F and my boyfriend 33M have been dating for a little over a year. We are currently at odds over his friendship with his female best friend and I'm looking to Reddit to help settle a debate for me. For context, my boyfriend and his friend Sarah have been friends for 14 years. When we first started dating he would tell her about me and would send me screenshots of their convos so I knew they were close and would text often. About 4 months into us dating he told me that they had sex on 2 separate occasions 10 years ago, which I didn't love that it took him that long to tell me, but I told him that I can't start a relationship with him and expect him to drop people that have been in his life well before I was ever in the picture, and even though it would be very uncomfortable to be around her I would do my best to be okay with the situation. To be honest, I was never comfortable with the friendship after that, but I'm not gonna tell someone who they can or can't be friends with. He then told me about a number of other girls in his friend group that he's either made out or had sex with. It was a handful. Again, told him I don't love it but I'll do my best to be okay with the situation. Now I want to rewind to earlier on in our relationship. During a date after 3 weeks into us dating we discussed past relationships and I told him that I've only ever stayed friends with one of my exes. Me and this ex, Troy, dated over 10 years ago when I was 19, for about a year and lived together for a few months but the breakup was bad. We didn't speak for a few years after the breakup but eventually we hung out, talked about our past differences and decided that even though we weren't romantically compatible we did always enjoy hanging out, so we decided to be friends. And from that moment on until present we've only ever had a friendship and he's become one of my closest friends. So during that date I had disclosed that I was friends with an ex, but just like I knew about Sarah and never knew they had sex, he knew about Troy but didn't know he was the ex I had told him I was friends with. So fast forward back to him telling me about Sarah, I then told him about Troy. He reacted very badly to this news. He claimed I'd never told him I was friends with my ex and he felt very hurt and angry at this news. It was a pretty big source of contention. I ended up, stupidly, agreeing to end my friendship with Troy if it made him uncomfortable. But he refused to end the friendship with Sarah because it was 10 years ago and it didn't mean anything. I think that's a huge double standard, that I would be expected to end my friendship with someone he's uncomfortable with but he can remain friends with Sarah. He said that because they never actually dated it wasn't the same and he shouldn't have to end that friendship just because they've had sex before. He says if he wanted to be with her in that way he would have by now. And I argue the same, I was already with this man, it didn't work for either of us and I don't want to be with him. If I wanted to be with him in that way I would have been. This argument has been ongoing since that 4-month mark, with us talking about it, not coming to an agreement, sweeping it under the rug until Sarah or Troy reaches out to one of us and then the argument continues. He's told me flat out that he would drop any girl I had an issue with him speaking to except this one. He's told me that she's been a really good friend to him, that she's been there through some of his life's toughest battles, he's cried to her many times, and his heart breaks at the idea of not being her friend. And I've told him that once me and Troy became friends it was the same thing. He's been there for many of my milestone moments, graduations, birthdays. If I needed help he was one of the few people I could turn to for help. So what makes his friendship more important than mine? What bothers me the most is that I was and would have been fine with them being as close as they are. Again, don't love it but I would have dealt with it. My biggest issue is the double standard. He wants me to completely end my friendship, have zero communication, not answer his texts, calls, pretty much ghost my friend with no explanation. But he believes he should be able to continue his friendship with her. I think that either we both stay friends with Sarah and Troy or neither of us stay friends. It has to be equal. So Reddit, am I the asshole for wanting him to end his friendship with his girl best friend of 14 years? Stories number 50. Aita for not throwing out a salad that wasn't mine. Everyone sucks. I know the title sounds weird, but it's what happened. I work in an office with about 15 other people as an admin. Our jobs are to support the doctors that work in the office. We have about 20 of them in the office. One of my coworkers is severely allergic to peanuts and all tree nuts, so we have a rule that you can't bring those into the office under any circumstances. Their allergy is bad enough that they carry an AP pen with them everywhere they go. The other day, one of the doctors brought us food from a meeting they attended. It was a bag of sandwiches and 2 large salads. I was helping to take them to the kitchen when I noticed one of the salads had walnuts in it. I told one of my coworkers and she said someone should take it home as opposed to having it out to share, due to the allergy. I should have gone to another floor and disposed of it immediately. Instead, and this is where I might be the I said I'd take it home. So I put a giant, bright blue post-it on the container that said, "Don't open," with my name, and put it in the fridge. Unfortunately I had an emergency come up and had to leave work early. It caused me to forget the salad, and I wasn't going to be back in the office the following day either. So I texted 2 other coworkers and told them about the salad and told them one of them should take it home. Yesterday I was working from home and got a message from the coworker who had the allergy. They asked if I had left the note in the salad. I explained, yes, but I wasn't the one who brought it in, and I had meant to take it home. Coworker then tells me they had, for some reason, grabbed the salad and now they had to take Betrayal. I apologized profusely, but they were obviously very upset, and did wind up leaving work early. Later that day our boss sent out an email reminding everyone that nuts of any kind, in any form, are forbidden at work and that everyone deserves a safe work environment. This email only went out to all of my coworkers, and not to any of the doctors, which I don't feel was fair. I feel terrible I didn't throw the salad away, but Aita for not doing so. Stories number 51. Aita for refusing to spend another dime on step-kids and step-grands. I, 38F, and husband, 50M, have been married for 10 years and have a 1-year-old daughter together. He has a son, 30M, and daughter, 28F, from a previous marriage. Since my husband and I have been together, I have always bought his children birthday presents, Christmas presents, and gifts cards every holiday. They have always made snood comments about me being too festive. But my love language is gift giving. Well, they both have children now. His son has 3 children under the age of 5, and his daughter has twin 2-year-old daughters. This past Christmas his daughter and her husband hosted our family Christmas party. During the gift exchange each household exchanged the gift they bought for the other households. For context, his children have never bought Christmas presents for me, which I am fine with. I have always been the one to purchase the gifts for my step-children and my step-grandchildren. My husband gives the adult kids gift cards. So while the gift were being passed out, it quickly became apparent that this year they not only didn't buy anything for me but not his for my 1-year-old daughter, their half-sister. So everyone at the party had gifts to open, my husband, my stepson and his wife, their 3 sons, my stepdaughter, her husband and twin daughters, had all bought for each other and I had bought for all of them, and not one person bought anything for their baby sister. I gathered my things and my daughter and we left. Afterwards, I told my husband that I had never been made feel like a part of the family, and that's one thing, but for them to exclude their own half-sister who is part of their blood is a complete different thing. I told him I will never spend a dime on his family because they are not mine. Also, they decided to do a family photo shoot and didn't include my daughter. Aita. Stories number 52. My girlfriend, 24F, left me, 29M. We have been dating for about 2.5 years, living together for 1.5. I have a 9 almost 10-year-old son. Last Wednesday I got a phone call on my way home from running some errands and she told me she moved out and was leaving me. She took the cats and a bunch of other stuff that she had paid for, some stuff purchased jointly. I'm not chapped about the items. My son comes back to my place on Monday and I told her if she decided she wanted to come back I wouldn't ask any questions as long as it was before my son found out that she left us. Originally she said she was done, but she believes I'll hold resentment. I'm a pretty peaceful guy and I won't, I'll just appreciate her more. I've been stressed about some financial stuff recently, and she's had things going on as well, so our communication deteriorated over the past few months. She wants to run it by her therapist Monday. Am I making the right choice to not just rip the band-aid off? Edit. I'd like to thank everyone for their perspective, but I'm done listening to outside opinions. It's split enough that I think listening to my heart is the right move. I've reflected on what I could have done better and will continue to do that regardless of what the future holds. She's a good person regardless of what these actions showed the outside world. Thanks again. Stories number 53. I spent 14 years in the wrong body. If you think being trans is a choice, read this. Edit. Since so many are choosing to ignore so many of the things said in the post, I'm adding this to maybe clarify or reiterate these things. There is a lot of data showing that in areas of the brain that differ between males and females in function or size, trans people align with the gender they transition to. Read about the BST study. Most of these characteristics also appear in areas of the brain responsible for perception of identity and our body. A lot of this data has been categorized as neurological intersexuality, just like some people are born intersex in respect to their chromosomes and genitalia. It's possible that gender dysphoria is a result of misalignment intersexuality in the brain. Ignoring this medical reality and choosing to view it as a choice is very harmful, and before those who say it's a mental illness pop up, gender dysphoria isn't the same psychologically or neurologically as recognized mental illnesses like depression or anxiety. If dysphoria isn't treated, it can lead to mental illnesses, but it's not itself a mental illness. There's a wide consensus on this. Please listen to the science. Since I was 14, I worked hard to make sure that I could transition into a woman in a way that would allow me to close that chapter and move on with my life, living in a way where I wouldn't have to tell anyone. As I completed my surgeries and started attending work and university as exactly what 14-year-old me had dreamed of, I found peace, comfort, and genuine joy. However, recent news from the United States has made me reflect on the past 7 years of my life in a completely different light. I've never wanted to share my story or fight to prove my identity, but watching what's unfolding has made me realize how important these personal testaments are. My hope is that whoever reads this might begin to see transsexuality in a different way. I'm not American. I once considered going to university in the US because, where I live, many people glamorize the country and see it as an ideal place. I grew up in a small village in the Middle East, where the concept of transsexuality was almost non-existent. Yet, somehow, from a young age, everyone around me sensed that there was something different about me. I remember aunties telling me, it's like you were a girl in your mom's belly and were accidentally born a boy. Every time I heard that, something inside me just felt right, even though it took me years to understand why. Flash forward to me at 20, post-transition, taking an edible with my brother. Before reading the next part, if you've ever tried weed, try tapping into that feeling where you get so immersed in a thought that, for a split second, it becomes your reality. Super high from the edible, my brother told me to imagine we were in a video game, to literally picture a whole control panel in front of us and to imagine we were just watching our lives through a screen. If you know the feeling, there was a moment when we both became so immersed in that thought that we dissociated, and for a brief second, it felt like reality. That was the first time I truly understood my dysphoria. Totally unrelated to the high itself, but that feeling, of being completely disconnected from your body and experiencing life as if through someone else's screen, is exactly how I had felt since I was a child. The phrase trans people use about being in the wrong body isn't some abstract idea we just identify with, it's a literal, neurological experience. It's a constant feeling that you're walking through life in the body of someone else, watching it from outside. The only way to treat it is through medical and social transition. What frustrates me about the discourse surrounding transsexuality is that so many people don't understand this. The discussion has been politicized to the point where trans women are seen as men who simply woke up one day and decided to go into women's bathrooms. This erasure of the medical reality of transsexuality is harmful. It ignores extensive research showing that our brains function differently and, in many sex-based neural characteristics, more closely resemble the gender we transition to rather than the sex we were assigned at birth. Yet, so many people are fixated on seeing humans solely through the lens of reproduction and basic biology, ignoring the complexities of the brain and how changes in brain function fundamentally shape identity and reality. Why do we continue to impose such outdated and harmful constraints on our understanding of the human body and mind when we have the ability to help people live authentically and find happiness? Why do we support and elect leaders who insist on fitting the world into a narrow, rigid framework that disregards scientific and medical consensus on what is best for trans people? As I mentioned, I'm not American, and I don't know if the situation there will improve, or worsen before it gets better. But I can say with certainty that the global community is watching, terrified. We all have a role in stopping the spread of this hatred. I urge you to educate those around you, to speak up against misinformation and bigotry, and to fight for a future where people can live as their true selves without fear. Even the smallest effort can help make tomorrow a little better than today. My BF, M18, is upset with me, F18, for not knowing about a sexual encounter before him. Me and my boyfriend have been together for 10 months. He built our entire relationship around this view that I was some innocent poor little girl who had been taken advantage of by her last boyfriend. While I had been taken advantage of, I knew how to take care and handle the situation accordingly, but in his view, I needed some saving anyways. Fast forward to today, he finds out that I used to have sexual encounters with a boy he mutually knows, and he is acting as if I cheated on him. He's hurt and he's contemplating breaking up with me because of morals. I believe he is overreacting as this encounter is months old, way before we got together. And he's hanging the fact over my head and he's threatening to harm himself, and this whole thing is just becoming entirely too serious. We might split over this. Is this situation worth fighting for? Story number 55. Partner, 34F, was upset with me, 32F, after couples therapy and wouldn't let me sleep, kept trying to waking me up by pushing me. She apologized the next day, but I'm still not feeling okay after this. Not sure how to navigate this. As the title says, my partner became upset after I brought up a topic on couples therapy she thought was unnecessary/resolved. She kept spiraling at night after that and couldn't sleep, so she would purposefully wake me up by moving close to my/pushing me. I felt horrible and a bit anxious, nervous afterwards. Politely asked if she would move a bit further away from me and she said no. Next day she did apologize for her behavior, but I'm still feeling shaky. To be honest, I do love her. We've been together for 10+ years and been through a lot. Unsure about how to navigate this. We have a follow-up therapy session this Tuesday. I plan to bring this up. In the meantime, I would appreciate any advice. Stories number 56. Aita for breaking up with my girlfriend for getting drunk and telling our friends about my fetish. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons. Me, 29M, and my girlfriend, 35F, had been together for about 8 months. We have certainly had our ups and downs, but for the most part it was a good relationship. Most of the downs being when she has struggles with her mental health. She was in contention for a major promotion at work. She was very worked up about over it. Until she told me someone slipped to her that she was going to get it. She was so excited. I've never seen her so happy. It was great. We agreed to meet our friends at our favorite bar after work the day she was expecting to be officially offered her promotion. When I met her outside the bar, I could instantly tell something was wrong. She said she didn't get the promotion. Someone else did, a woman that she despises. It was really disappointing. I offered for us to just go home, but she insisted we hang out with our friends. She wanted to get drunk, and she did. She was barely even talking at first, just drinking. It was obvious to our friends something was wrong. Me and her started arguing at some point. It started over the wings me and her got. She was complaining she didn't like them, and how I didn't care what she wanted, and didn't listen to her, and all that. Eventually it struck a nerve and I told her she was drunk, acting like an ass, and she needed to go home. She got so pissed she told all 5 of our friends about my fetish. I don't want to say exactly what she said, but I have a fart fetish, and she mocked me about it in front of everyone. Yeah, whatever, I like being farted on. It's embarrassing. I'm only mentioning this so people can understand how embarrassed I was. But it is what it is. I'm obviously insecure about it. And now all our friends know. How am I supposed to hang out with any of them again? The next morning I broke up with her. She cried, begged, and said she didn't remember anything from last night. It was hard, but I held my ground. Now I don't know. Maybe I overreacted. Aita for breaking up with her after she was having a really bad day. A night she can't even remember apparently. Aita asked for my house keys back from my mother as she just lets herself in with no heads up and has walked into my bedroom too many times now while I am half asleep. So this happened yesterday, my mother just let herself into my house, I am a 36 years old woman, and walked into my bedroom at around 9-10 a.m. without a heads up she was coming over, nor asking if she could come over, or even knocking at the damn patio door that was open for my dog and yelling in that she was there. She just walked into my bedroom and proceeded to ask why I wasn't WFH yet, and after being told to leave, she pottered around in my kitchen, cleaning stuff and attempted to fill the second dog water bowl, first and the one in my bathroom were full. She has essentially OCD and it drove me nuts when I was a child, but coming into my house to nitpick everything is just unacceptable. I told her to leave multiple times, and after a good 5 minute plus of that I told her to get the F out ASAP. She did not take kindly to it, but she never takes kindly to me establishing boundaries. Her just walking in unannounced has happened around once every other month past couple years, and my anxiety is off a cliff because of this and other personal stuff. I know she wants to help, but I am going insane over the intrusiveness. I am having mental health problems, severe depression and anxiety and chronic insomnia, which I have been working on all through 2024, and now I'm going to have a first app with a psychologist next week. I just want to know if I am overreacting or underreacting because this has been my whole life. Overstepping, boundary pushing parents. Don't even get me started on what happened in Mexico when I was 21 and she overstepped LOL severely during our group holiday. She tried to start cleaning my sink cause it was not up to her standards, I just cannot anymore.